It is just Journey to the West, but isn't that based on some sort of like Chinese mythology? YouTube, we're here. It is below linked. It is. YouTube, we are here. We are watching Wukong content. We finished the game. Now we want to go see the story and try and understand what it is we just played. It was literature written around the 1500s. Okay. That's cool. The fact that it made its way into a game. The goal of every game we play is that once we beat it, we want to go back and try and understand what we played. All right? This was done by the Brothers Code. What's interesting to me is this. Let me read this. If you're interested, the actual main plot of the game is that Sun Wukong found out the truth about the gods and Buddhas, how they gain their immortality. Basically, they are eating mortals and Yaoguais and even have even some of their own to stay immortal and powerful, and wanted no part of it. You can read about this in the journal Great Sage's Broken Shell, okay? Thus, he quit his position in the heavens and his Buddhahood. But gods, the Celestial Court, and Buddhas, Ling Shan, wouldn't let that go. Thus, they summoned or forced other great Yaoguais, kings, Black Bear, Yellow Sage, Yellow Brow, Hundred-Eyed Taoist Master, and Bull King, along with Erlang Shen, leading the Celestial Court's army to wage war against Sun Wukong, and committed genocide towards beings, mostly monkeys, on Mount Haoguai. Is that wrong? Is that true? I don't know. Is that true? It's summarized nicely. It got a lot of upvotes. I don't know, man. Sun Wukong was defeated due to the fact that the spell of his headband was still on, and he knew he would never be free of it if he remained alive. Thus, he willed his own death in the end. Each of the Yaoguai kings was given a relic of Sun Wukong, the 5 senses of the Great Sage. After his death, yet Erlang himself took the memory, the essential part of the 6th relic mind of Wukong, and hid it in his 3rd eye. So he was a good guy after all. Erlang was a good dude. Wukong ate people all the time for fun. Well, is that in this canon? How many canons are there? Is that this canon? Hid it in his 3rd eye and murdered 2 celestial soldiers who witnessed it. That I remember that. Actually, that was read. Erlang's journal. Gods and Buddhas understand the undying nature of the stone monkey, and they knew that after a time for reincarnation, another monkey would return again and again. Thus, they orchestrated the Project Destined One to guide the Destined One, what player is playing, the reincarnation of Sun Wukong, to beat the 5 Yaoguai kings, and take back 5 of the 6 senses because of their knowledge in natural order. The 6th sense, aka the mind, would perish and dissipate away upon one's death. Thus, they could have a new Monkey King with all the might of the Sun Wukong, yet lack his memories and his rebellion nature. Be able to put the headband back on to submit and serve the Celestial Court, and Ling Shan, the bad ending. Okay, so essentially what it was, you were being, if this is correct, you were being orchestrated as a reincarnated version of Wukong to basically serve the Celestial Court. And in the end, you found out the truth because you beat Erlang, and Erlang was your bro, and he kept your mind intact. So even though you had your body intact, you didn't have your mind. You didn't have that old sense of self. And you would have just been a puppet. That's pretty cool. That's like a Dark Souls fucking thing. What the fuck? But under the help of Betraya Buddha, the baby Buddha, aka the Buddha from Future, Yuan Shushang, the man who guided the gourd, told the Destined One about the hidden loons, and taught the Destined One the Fire Circle spell, the Sun Wukong's old master, the one who taught the Keeper of the Blackwind Mountain 2 spells and told him to teach the Destined One when he arrived. If the Destined One managed to pass all the tests Erlang Shen had arranged, his brothers, the White Cloak Snake Guai in Chapter 1, the Yellow-Robed Bear in Chapter 2, or Boar, the Hooded Guy who leads the Destined One into the secret watermelon field in Chapter 3, the guy with lots of arms on his back leading the Destined One into the Purple Cloud Mountain in Chapter 4, the Axe Bull guy in Chapter 5 leading the secret birth of the Red Boy, and discovered all the secrets in each chapter. Maitre Buddha would open a gateway for the Destined One to where Erlang Shen was hiding all of these centuries. The Mei Shan. There, the Destined One must face his final test to fight against Erlang Shen, who would actually force the player to gain the full power of Sun Wukong, and strengthened by Erlang Shen, practiced by fighting 4 great celestial kings and molded by fire. When the Destined One triumphed, Erlang would then return the memories of Sun Wukong to the Destined One. Thus, when the player passed the final test given by the great sage himself in the end, Sun Wukong's mind would return, and his eyes would open before being crowned by the headband, foreshadowing the failure of the Celestial Court and Ling Shan. Is that actually summarized pretty well? I think that makes sense, though. I think with what I just read, I completely understood it. You wanted to be freed of that, you're mostly helped in the game by Buddhists who want you again on their side. So you're either going back to the Celestial Court as a pawn. I mean, what this guy says, though, is he found out what the Celestial Court was doing and he wanted no part of it. And because of that, he waged war against them. He wasn't on board with what they were toting. And so they cast him down. He died. His 4 parts were scattered to different kings. You take them back one by one in an attempt to reincarnate him and have him basically be used as a puppet without that sense of mind. Because as long as you have his body and his will and all that stuff, you can do whatever you want with it, right? That would make sense. Wukong wants to be freed of both. Well, who are the Buddhas in this case, then? Was that like the Buddha baby? The Buddha baby's not part of the Celestial Court, right? He's a completely different entity, right? Sun Wukong once again effectively defies death via memory and will transfer and free himself of the control of the Buddhas. Yeah. So he doesn't want to be a part of any of this shit. He just wants to go off and fuck around. Is that what I'm getting from this? Buddhism and Taoism are 2 different religions. Okay. But, so what is the Celestial Court toting? What is their supposed religion? He wants to break free of the grasp of these gods and just kind of go off and do his thing? Taoism, okay. Nothing like Wukong from League. It was inspired by... Cool, though. That's pretty cool. Alright, let's watch this. Journey to the West. So this is... First of all, this is from the Brothers Code.
Once upon a time, in the sacred peaks of Mount Huaguo, the Flower Fruit Mountain, a stone egg was conceived. The rock was nourished by the 5 elements and imbued with the essence of heaven and earth. Opposite forces that are interconnected and complementary, forming the balance of yin and yang. 1,000 years would pass before the mystical stone birthed a divine monkey. In time, the monkey learns of the natural way of the universe, a philosophy declaring
Sorry, I was eating food.
of yin and yang.
Sorry. Well, is this not every episode? This is literally every episode. This is it. Snow White, Ice Cold. Yeah, this is good. Okay. Let me focus. Hang on.
Once upon a time, in the sacred peaks of Mount Huaguo, the Flower Fruit Mountain, a stone egg was conceived. The rock was nourished by the 5 elements and imbued with the essence of heaven and earth. Opposite forces that are interconnected and complementary, forming the balance of yin and yang.
I have to lock in.
1,000 years would pass
Harder than
before
the final
mystical stone birthed a divine monkey. In time, the monkey learns of the natural way of the universe, a philosophy declaring that life cannot be grasped as a concept. Rather, it is seen through the living experience of one's everyday being. As such, he explores Mount Huaguo with an overflowing sense of wonder and curiosity. Soon after, the monkey befriends a clan of primates, and through demonstration of his bravery, gains the title of Handsome Monkey King.
True.
One day, he learns of the inevitability of death, and out of fear seeks a method of escaping the grasp of fate. He departs from home in search of a sage master who may teach him the secret to immortality. After a 10-year-long expedition, he arrives at a mountain cave, housing a sage named Patriarch Subodhi. He accepts the monkey as a student and bestows him the name Sun Wukong, meaning monkey awakened to emptiness. Pleased with Wukong's behavior and intelligence, Subodhi agrees to share the formula to immortality and teaches him the 72 earthly fiend transformations and somersault cloud. This is the first of 6 ways Wukong attains immortality. With his newly acquired abilities, Wukong's arrogance is amplified. He begins to parade his skill set in front of his colleagues. For that, he is expelled and sent back to Flowerfruit Mountain. Upon his return, Wukong learns of a monster named the Demon King of Havoc, who has been terrorizing his clan in his absence. With ease, he utilizes his new abilities to defeat the Demon King and reclaim his throne. Upon realizing that his clan is helpless without him, the Monkey King travels to a nearby kingdom and steals a heap of weapons and armaments to adorn his troops and teach them self-defense. Whilst journeying, he figures that he too needs a weapon of his own and decides to acquire one from the Dragon King of the East Sea. It is here that Wukong equips his legendary gold-braided staff of miraculous will. The staff is deceptively but monstrously heavy and capable of shrinking and expanding at will. In the underworld, the Monkey King removes his own name from the Register of Life, ensuring his exemption from the grips of mortality. This is the second method he gains immortality. The kings of hell are displeased with his actions and report him to the Jade Emperor, who invites him into heaven. Here, the Emperor can keep surveillance on him and prevent future trouble. Wukong initially agrees to remain in heaven and is appointed the title Horsekeeper. After learning that he has been deceived and granted.
So this is a monkey who was born of the elements, wandered around, figured out the concept of death, that all things will eventually end, hated that idea, found someone to teach him how to avoid death, ended up avoiding death through joining the Celestial Court, right? But I guess that he's been deceived.
To a lowly rank, he returns home furious, and in rebellion proclaims himself the great sage ruling heaven.
A happy little peril!
Lars, thank you, sir. Sorry, let me mute the alerts for now. Thank you, ma'am. For the 19 months. Appreciate it.
The Emperor dispatches an army of celestial soldiers to arrest Wukong, but they are bested. In turn, the Jade Emperor once again invites Wukong into heaven, this time assigning him a legitimate position to guard the immortal Peach Garden. As expected.
So the biggest thing about Wukong is that he's got a bit of an ego. He ended up becoming this like great student, great warrior, and with that came a bit of an ego. And he seems to never be satisfied. He sounds like a human being. Everyone at some point, I'm sure, has an ego. I was going to say, yeah. He thinks he's the hot shit. Yeah.
The monkey could not abstain from causing further malady. He devours the peaches in the orchard, crashes an immortal peach banquet, and eats everything in sight, in addition to drinking all the imperial wine and consuming all the golden elixir. By consuming the peaches, wine and elixir, Wukong's immortality compounds 5 times over. The 6th and final method would take place at a later point, through consuming a ginseng baby fruit. Following his heinous wrongdoings, he returns to Flowerfruit Mountain. Enraged, the Jade Emperor deploys 100,000 soldiers to arrest Wukong. Like before, they are forced to withdraw. Consequently, the goddess Guanyin arrives at the Celestial Palace and calls upon the god Erlang, heaven's most powerful general. Erlang and Wukong battle.
So Erlang was a general of like heaven. I'm like, this guy's kind of a big fucking deal, right? He is the most appointed. He's like Garen, right? Or Darius, yeah, okay.
Day and night, proving a perfect match in combat. Eventually, with the help of Supreme Lord Lao, Wukong is arrested. For his heavenly offences, he is sentenced to execution. As none of the divine methods would work on the immortal monkey, it is suggested that he be reduced to ashes through the heat of the 8 trigram furnace.
My God.
In a turn of events, Wukong escapes the furnace and marches towards the Jade Emperor's throne. Before long, Buddha arrives to mediate the situation. He challenges Wukong to a bet that if he could leap out of his palm, he will be granted the throne of heaven. Arrogant and with a smirk across his face, Wukong accepts. With a mighty leap, Sun Wukong soars through the sky, believing to have outmaneuvered Buddha himself. Little did he know, all along he was still in Buddha's palm. Having failed the challenge, Buddha turns his hand into the Five Elements mountain, crushing the lower half of Wukong beneath it. A magical seal is placed atop the mountain to ensure that the Monkey King remains imprisoned. 500 years would pass, and Wukong remained one with the mountain, and was sustained only by the mountain deities and keepers, who provided him with iron pellets and molten copper.
I remember that.
Buddha began noticing that civilization had become increasingly infested with greed and violence. He decides that a pilgrimage to the west is required to retrieve a set of Buddhist sutras that would teach the land of the East righteousness and enlightenment. Guan Yin is tasked with selecting an appropriate nominee to begin the grand journey. On her search, she encounters numerous divine beings banished from heaven, including Sun Wukong. She instructs them to wait for a scripture pilgrim and protect him on his journey.
So Wukong, why is Wukong a good guy then? Are we supposed to like Wukong? He sounds like a dickhead. The dude ran rampant through the heavens, had a big ego. Buddha offered to help him, struck down, he fucked up, and his atonement is to deliver, what did they just say? The sutras, the ways of the East to the West. Right? Deliver this stuff to these corrupted, greedy people to fucking set them on their right path. So he's just a bum. He was just having fun. He has a good heart, but he's a loudmouth. He's just a big idiot. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Let's keep watching.
Of Buddhist sutras that would teach the land
kind of like you.
East righteousness and enlightenment. Guan Yin is tasked with selecting an appropriate nominee to begin the grand journey. On her search, she encounters numerous divine beings banished from heaven, including Sun Wukong. She instructs them to wait for a scripture pilgrim and protect him on his journey, a means of rectifying their past mistakes. Guan Yin identifies a righteous monk by the name Shanzong and informs him of the set of Buddhist sutras. He agrees to embark on a journey to the west, and for his courage, the Emperor swears brotherhood with him and grants him the name Tripitaka. The name translates to triple basket, referring to the collection of sutras he intends to acquire. The scriptures are divided into three sections: the Vinaya Pitaka, the Sutta Pitaka, and the Abhidharma Pitaka. On his travels, the monk passes by Five Elements Mountain and discovers Wukong. The monkey convinces him that their unity is written in fate, as his arrival was foretold by Guan Yin. Tripitaka frees Wukong by lifting the seal at the peak of the mountain and makes him his first disciple. As they travel together, Wukong's arrogance and disobedience begins to surface, making it difficult for Tripitaka to maintain authority. As a result, Guan Yin gifts the monk a golden headband and teaches him a mantra that tightens the headband when spoken. Wukong is tricked into wearing the item, and once adorned, it becomes impossible to remove. On their adventure, they encounter a dragon which devours their horse. Hence, Guan Yin turns the creature into a white dragon horse to serve in replacement. They later encounter an old man who requests their aid, claiming that a gluttonous pig had kidnapped his daughter. The pig had disguised himself as a human and married the old man's daughter. To the family's horror, he accidentally revealed his true form as a pig, and in a panic, kidnapped his wife and locked her in a room, hoping that she would come to accept him for who he is. Wukong rescues the woman and confronts the pig. Upon hearing of a monk on a
But wasn't he turned into a pig? He wasn't a pig to begin with?
For sutras in the west,
right?
The pig yields, and explains that Guan Yin had instructed him to await and serve the monk. With that said...
Oh, wait. Wait, he was part of the Celestial Court. Yeah, I know that. But does that mean you're a creature? Does that mean you're a monster? Okay, I was going to say he got turned into a pig. Because he made it sound like the other way around.
Tripitaka recruits the pig as a new disciple, and grants him the name Jubajie. The final disciple would be recruited at the Flowing Sand River, a sand demon by the name Sha Wujing. With the band assembled, the four journeyed together for many years. Their path was fraught with hardship. They travelled day and night through various regions and uncharted territories. In his past life, Tripitaka was the second disciple to Buddha in the West. Yet his arrogance led him to disregard the Dharma teachings, and as a result, Buddha cast him down to the mortal realm. On his journey to redemption, his companions represent his three inner demons, preventing him from reaching enlightenment. The pig represents lust, the sand demon, wrath, and Wukong, the wandering mind. This is displayed through the mantra that tightens the headband. With each utterance, he calms his mind. Immortals often say that Sun Wukong was at his most mischievous and ruthless when he was the Monkey King. Yet during that time, aside from his battles with the Celestial Court, he rarely harmed other beings. It was only after he became a disciple, following his master and gaining direction, that he developed many thunderous methods: stealing, robbing, kidnapping, killing, arson, and destroying mountains and caves.
Yeah, okay. All became second nature to him. We read that. So, okay.
All became second nature to him. Although seemingly invulnerable,
Kidnapping, by the way, arson.
Pain. He suffered injuries from the Samadhi wind at Yellow Wind Ridge, was trapped in the transforming gourd of the Gold and Silverhorn brothers at Flattop Mountain, scorched unconscious by the Samadhi fire at Withered Pine Stream, beheaded in the kingdom of Chechi, stung on the head by Scorpion Gwai in Piper Cave, imprisoned within the gold symbols in the New West, captured in the golden light trap at the Temple of Yellow Flowers, had his heart gouged out in the kingdom of Bhikkhu, and endured the tightening headband curse numerous times, each instant squeezing his head until it almost resembled a gourd.
Ugh.
In the end, the pilgrims successfully reached their destination and retrieved the sacred sutras. Back home they were showered with praise and made to stay at the imperial palace. As a token of gratitude, Bajie became the cleaner of altars. Sha Wujing was elevated to a golden arhat, a perfected
So we never saw this guy. This guy's gone. This dude's complete. This the fucking, what did he just call him?
Until it almost resembled a god.
That guy we never found, right?
In the end, the pilgrims successfully reached their destination.
Because Baji's with us like most of the game.
Back home they were showered with praise and made to stay at the imperial palace. As a token of gratitude, Bajie became the cleaner of altars. Sha Wujing was elevated to—
Yeah, Sha Wujing. I was gonna say he might be in the DLC. I think I was gonna say if Baji was in the game, if this guy was kind of like one of the dudes that went with them, he's most likely gonna be in the DLC. I don't know why he wouldn't, to be honest. Yeah.
Arhat, a perfected person who had gained spiritual enlightenment. The white dragon horse was transformed into a celestial dragon. Last but not least, Tripitaka and Sun Wukong were bestowed positions in the Buddhist pantheon and were granted Buddhahood. Here concludes the journey to the West.
So that was the intro to the game, and this is where the game now picks up. That was the journey to the West, their atonement, right?
The story as told concludes with a positive outcome, but this is where Black Myth divorces itself from the conventional narrative.
So it's basically Red Dead Redemption. But like, is it? I mean, atoning for your sins and all that shit, right? I don't know. It's Red Dead Redemption. Kind of, not really.
Journey to the West. Wukong, for one reason or another,
it is different. Yeah, Journey to the West
before the Celestial Court once again, tried for crimes committed. We know this is a continuation of the original tale, as Wukong references Bajie in his monologue. In addition, Erlang makes his appearance, and remarks that he had beaten the Monkey King once before. In a repeat of history, Wukong is defeated and imprisoned within Mount Huaguo, and so ends the last tale of Sun Wukong, a hero who treasured his freedom above all else. Buddhahood he attained, but cumbersome he found the celestial rules. He yearned for the simple life he had once commanded. Little did he know, his choice to forego life in heaven would only fuel the gods' mistrust. His remains are trapped within a birthstone. Though his body was broken, his spirit endures. His essence was fragmented into 6 relics, which scattered through the wind, choosing to stay hidden for centuries. In the dawn of a new age, an old monkey retells the story of Sun Wukong, ensuring that his legend is not erased by the hands of time. Some say the monkey is the goddess Guanyin, others say he is Patriarch Bodhi. It is suggested that he may be Wukong himself, but to most, he's just an old monkey in the mountains. His duty is to prepare and guide destined ones on their journeys, monkeys who seek to retrieve the 6 relics of the great sage. Upon the return of the relics to Mount Huaguo, Wukong may yet rise again. The Destined One begins his journey in Blackwind Mountain.
So why do we want Wukong, though? Why do we care about the Destined One becoming Wukong? What is the gist of him becoming Wukong again? If this is such a big deal, as Wukong was struck down by Erlang and, you know, the pieces of him were scattered throughout the lands, why is that important that Wukong needs to come back? Again, he just sounded like a bum who atoned for his problems and then was cast down when he tried to fight back. The monkeys liked it. So he's the leader of the monkeys. So the monkeys, he can guide the monkeys to a better existence, essentially. You're the monkey king. You help the monkeys. That's why that's why they need him back. Is that it, essentially? It's your legacy. He protects his subjects. So he's a better ruler than the Celestial Court, essentially. Is that what that is? Yeah, they're not treated too well. Okay, so he's going to take care of the monkeys. That's what I've gathered so far.
Halted by the mountain's keeper. As suggested by the name, this individual is in charge of observing the living beings of his domain and nurturing the soil and streams. Keepers are earthbound deities. Though humble in rank, nothing in the mortal world escapes their eyes. The keeper states that Guanyin Temple lies up ahead. It was once bustling with worshippers before it was destroyed by a fire. Deeper still is the white-clad noble. He is the eyes and ears of the mountain, keeping watch of all who come and go. By the orders of the Blackwind King, he guards the path to the temple. He remarks that Guanyin Temple now lies in cinders, yet the root of greed ever fosters the stem of suffering. The noble refers to Elder Jinchi. He, along with two Yaoguais named Guanji and Guanmo, are responsible for the burning of Guanyin Temple. The story goes as such. Along their journey to the west, Wukong and Tripitaka, who is often referred to as the Tang Monk, paid a visit to the temple. Elder Jinchi, who at the time was the head abbot, became enthralled by the monk's golden robe. He kindly asked to borrow the Kasaya for the night. As he marvelled in its splendour, Jinchi's latent greed emerged when he tried to wear the cloak. Greed was instilled within him from a very young age. As a child, Jinchi wandered alone in a dark forest. Deep inside, he stumbled upon a large black bear with piercing red eyes.
Animation, dude, crazy.
The boy braced to be eaten, but instead, the black bear gave him a pouch of gold and silver. After that fateful encounter, Jinchi grew up with an unmatched desire for material possessions, and began to amass a collection of robes. Guanji and Guanmo were both servants to Jinchi, but the tension between all three were high, as Guanmo was immensely jealous that Jinchi always acknowledged Guanji but not him. Bitter, he schemed to eliminate both of them. This began by encouraging Jinchi to murder the Tang monk and take the Kasaya for himself. Taking the bait, Guanji was ordered to set fire to the Tang monk's quarters. Things took a turn as the monk was rescued by Wukong, and a wind was summoned by Guanmo to spread the fire through the entire temple, reducing the sanctuary to ashes. In light of this horror, Guanji fled to the mountains. As for Jinchi, knowing that his greed was the cause of this unfolding tragedy, he surrendered his life. There is another player involved in the events that transpired at Blackwind Mountain.
The Black Bear.
When Jinchi and his servants were in conflict with Wukong, the Black Bear Guai, who had given Jinchi the pouch many moons ago, found himself involved in the battle and was defeated. Thereafter, he surrendered himself to Guanyin, who adorned him with a divine headband similar to the one worn by Wukong, a means of maintaining authority over him. Many years later, the Black Bear was employed by the Celestial Court to help subdue the Monkey King. In return, he was promised to be freed from the shackle that binds to his head. He touched the encaging band inside. To risk one's life just to remove a headband, it's not worth it. Yet he knew that his options were limited, and reluctantly agreed to the conditions. As a reward for his efforts, he was gifted Wukong's eyes, one of the 6 relics scattered throughout the world. Having acquired this relic, the Black Bear Guai abandoned his discipleship to Guanyin and returned home. Taking the form of a human, he vowed to restore his might in the mountains. He knew well that after years away, to win respect from the Yaoguais, strength alone would not make them bow, so he took many steps to try to earn both awe and loyalty. Over the last 500 years, he rebuilt the temple to be grander in scope, restored the charred scriptures piece by piece, and united the Yaoguais under one leadership.
Sounds like a good guy.
In due time, he became known as the Black Wind King. Arriving at the Black Wind Cave, the king mistakes the Destined One for his old rival, Sun Wukong. After a drawn-out battle, he retreats to the summit. In his rage, he sets ablaze the temple and its surroundings. All he had worked to build, in an instant torn asunder. The king appears in his true form, the Black Bear Guai. Before long, he is defeated. He attempts to retreat further, but ultimately fails. At the Destined One's heel, he begs for forgiveness, excusing himself as a pawn of the Celestial Court. If given a choice, he would have never dared challenge the mighty Wukong. The keeper of the Blackwind Mountain appears not a moment too soon, and confirms that the bear speaks candidly. He pleads that if given the opportunity for atonement, he will return to Guanyin and be put back on the engaging band. It is difficult to believe the flattering words of someone at the mercy of another, as it is in every being's nature to ensure survival by any means necessary. Regardless of the bear's sincerity, the Destined One pays him no mind, instead shifting his focus to the true goal, the Great Sage's relic, which is now in his grasp. The events that transpired in Guanyin Temple are cautionary. A mere human blessed with a lifespan nearing 3 centuries, yet he was never sated. He just had to seize that one Kasaya. Centuries of devotion undone by a moment's greed. It is human nature to desire what could be, and not be content with what is. If not careful, even a monk can be led astray. As for the black bear...
So why do they all look like fucking abominations? Why does that guy look that way? If he was once a human, now looks like that, what is that of? Is he being cursed by, like, the Celestial Court? Like, what exactly is that? Is it explained? The evil inside, like, corrupted him and twisted him into a giant fucking freak? Sin! I mean, these are all tales of lands that don't necessarily pertain to, like, the story. They're just chapters that you go through, that you experience, you get your piece, and then you move on. Right? Like, this story, in the grand scheme of things, does not matter. It is just the chapter's story of what is going on and why you're there. Right? Well, why you're there is to get the piece.
Fine guardian for Guanyin, yet upon claiming his freedom, he abandoned the goddess to seek glory for himself. Alas, to think too highly of oneself and then end up achieving nothing. It is true what they say, a fool with ambition is worse than a nobody. As mentioned previously, the Tang monk was once a disciple to Buddha, but was cast down to the mortal realm. On his road to redemption, he was destined to face 81 trials. The fire was merely one of them. To think this tragedy began from an act of generosity. Perhaps the pouch was not the bear's to give in the first place, just as the Kasaya was never Elder Jinchi's to keep. Spring gives birth, summer nurtures, autumn harvests, and winter stores. All things have their seasons. Gaining something out of season, even if obtained, is still a loss. Understanding the right moment for all things is indeed a difficult lesson to learn.
Interesting. That first chapter, I would say that first chapter was, that's a pretty strong opener to a game, though. And even if you don't really get the lore immediately, and I'm sure most people wouldn't, you have a lot to read. You have a lot to read. Well, I had, like, snacks. This game is pretty deep with lore, but you really don't need to know it, to be honest. I feel like the lore and kind of why you're there are almost like two separate things. It's like you find the land, you take it, you move on. Find the land, take it, move on. Find the land, take it, move on. The zones themselves are more of a set piece. They're more of a, you know, backdrop for you to kind of just get your goal and leave. It isn't hard to follow, no. But it's cool to figure out the stories of, like, what is happening in each zone. But essentially, from what I've gathered from that, though, initially, is I feel like all of the other zones are going to be the same. They're going to present you with an overall story of the land. And at the end of it, you're just like, give me my piece. Give me my piece. But that's still cool that, you know, again, you're a foreign body in kind of the adventure. You awoken, you've trained and became strong enough, and now you're the supposed destined one. Now set off and go reclaim Wukong. You don't know anything. You haven't been anywhere, right? You've only lived on that mountain as a monkey. And the guy's like, okay, go. You can go now. So that's cool.
Winds first howled through Windrest. A curious
The first
event
zone was,
unfolded.
I think, one of my favorites.
Children of the village
This was
were
one of
at
my least
play near
favorites.
the village's edge when haunting chords wafted through the air. Their young ears caught the song's pleasant notes. Intrigued and never having heard such a song,
I thought I was
the
Wukong,
youngsters
yeah.
raced towards the musician. As they neared, they beheld a figure leaning on a boulder, headless.
This guy was cool.
The children scattered in fright, but one boy stumbled and fell. The musician emerged from behind the rock, and with a strum of his instrument, gently lifted the boy to his feet. The headless monk plucked another chord. A cooling breeze passed over the boy's bruised leg. Looking down, he found his wound miraculously healed. With a final strum, the boy's trousers restored themselves. With that, the musician vanished into a gust of wind and sand. When the villagers returned, they found the boy
You know what's
pointing at-
interesting, though? I'll say this. The stories, I guess, in themselves are intertwined, though, because they do lead you to where you need to be. You figuring out what is going on, essentially, is also figuring out where your piece is. Right? Because you're like, oh, that's interesting, let me follow this. And oh, that's this and this and this. It's not like a mystery or anything, but it's... I guess it helps along the journey to have something like that. It's the story of the land, exactly. Yeah. The original Wukong when he was there, and he's like, I'm back, baby. I'm getting my pieces.
the sand,
It's cool, though.
exclaiming it was an immortal. The adult scoffed. Nonsense. What sort of immortal lacks a head? Looking to the distance, the boy knew in his heart that he was in the presence of a sacred being. The kingdom of flowing sands, abundant with gold, marked the sun's daily demise.
This was such
The
a long
sun,
chapter.
truest of fires,
This is such
plunged
a
into
long
the
chapter.
western seas,
And
the
there's the
waters
bonus
boiled and
chapter as
hissed
well,
at
the
its
bonus
touch.
portion of this area.
Each dusk, as the evening bell tolled, the king sent men to the ramparts, where they beat upon a great drum and sound clarion calls, thus neutralizing the noise of the seas. This drum, known as the drum of the setting sun, was a gift from Buddha and granted peace to the common folk. In gratitude, they filled their land with golden statues of all those enlightened, and the place came to be known as the Buddhist Land of Gold. As the years passed,
These
the
guys.
people's reverence for Buddhism grew to overshadow their regard for their secular ruler. This did not sit well with the king, and so he decreed to put an end to Buddhism. By his orders, temples were razed and monks were banished. His deeds are illustrated by the countless Buddha heads found buried in the sand. Not long after, at dusk, when the great drum was struck, a monstrous insect erupted from the earth beyond the border. With terrible might, it ravaged the humble villages, leaving untold death in its wake. From then on, the sound of the drum unfailingly drew that Yao Guai from its den to wreak new ruin. The people declared
Okay.
this to be karmic retribution.
So this thing is called a Yao Guai. All of the enemies in the game are Yao Guais. What does the term Yao Guai mean? Demon? Because even people who were turned into them, like, was this a bug that turned into a Yao Guai, or was this a person that turned into a bug? It's a demon, right? So this at one point was a person, but it's a monster. But then what about the other people who end up turning into demons? Evil spirit, demon, deity, strange being. So people can turn into Yao Guais, but Yao Guais exist automatically as, like, evil forces. Because every time I think of it now, all the different Yao Guais outside of the bugs, I mean, to me, it's like, okay, gotcha. So they're just like standard demon enemy things. Monster is more accurate. But, well, there are people who turn into them, though. Well, not all of them are evil. So there's good Yao Guais, too. So Yao Guais are essentially, in this mythology, the mythical beings of the land. And depending on what they do, they can be evil, they can be good, whatever. They're just mythical entities, right? Supernatural entities. So does that mean there are people along with the Yao Guais? Like, the monkeys are not Yao Guais, right? They form a monster inside of you. You're the demon all along. So these entities live among other things, right? Is Wukong a Yao Guai? Is Baji a Yao Guai? Are they really? Wukong is a Yao Guai. Animals turn into Yao Guais too? Okay. Chilling Wukong just does stupid shit to piss them off. That's what I was saying. Wukong sounds like a dick. Yeah. Okay.
The result of the king's impiety. The chastened king halted his suppression of the Buddhist faith and sent armies to slay the creature. Yet what hope had mortal men to prevail against a foe so mighty and dreadful? The catastrophic insect that had levelled the towns and valleys was summoned on Buddha's command as punishment for the king's apparent disdain for the holy religion. Fortunately, there was an enlightened monk passing through the land, a rat, yellow of hair and garb.
He's a rat,
This righteous
Dutch.
soul could not bear to witness injustice.
We beat this
and
guy at the end of
aided
the
armies in slaying
story.
the wicked insect.
End of the
In
chapter.
gratitude, the king honoured him with the title of royal sage and built a shrine in his honour. The sage resided in the kingdom
Fucking
for several years.
Skaven. As long as it has supernatural powers, they are labeled as Yao Guai. Gotcha. Wukong is a monkey consumed with obsession when his mind was lost, which turned him into a Yao Guai.
Years. At his suggestion, the king issued the Rodent Reverence Edict, which declared rats as celestial beings protected by the king's law, making it illegal to harm them. Hence, more rat guais from across the land flocked to the realm. This angered Buddha. Not only did the sage derail his plan to exact revenge, but his shrine was an insult. Buddha's statues were torn down, only to have an effigy of a rat constructed.
Jesus.
If the denizens were proud to hail a rodent as their saviour, then they shall all become rats. In an instance, the entire kingdom was transformed.
Really?
Eventually, the sage resumed his wanderings and became the disciple of Bodhisattva Lingji. He relocated to Yellowwind Ridge. Here, he crossed paths with the Tang monk and Wukong whilst they were on their journey to the west. Believing that he could achieve immortality by consuming the monk's flesh, the sage instructed his lieutenant, the Tiger Vanguard, to kidnap the monk. They were successful in doing so, however it wasn't long before Wukong and Bajie arrived to rescue their master. A battle ensued and the Tiger Vanguard was laid to rest. The sage utilized his Samadhi wind to keep the disciples at bay. Eventually, Bodhisattva Lingji intervened and defeated the sage using the Golden Lung staff. The sage was spared under the condition that he would not harm others again. The Kingdom of Flowing Sands had 3 princes of the royal line. The eldest prince, favoured by the king, was a renowned warrior who held the title of Valiant General. Sadly, a shadow darkened his mind, clouding his reason.
Everything seems so... The second portion of this game felt I guess the most tragic in a way, because all these people were kind of like normal at one point. This guy, I think, when you fight the little rat dudes, one of them is like the dad, and the other one's like the son, I believe, and this one is like the other, that's the brother, obviously. And this thing had lost its mind, and I think it just eats the guy, right? It eats the father, if I'm not mistaken. That is this whole area is like cursed, it's weird.
Thus he was hidden away. The second prince, though a man of great strength, was simple of mind. He was neither as skilled
this
a
area
warrior
seems
as
pretty
his elder brother,
tragic.
nor as clever as his younger sibling. Of the 3 sons, he was the least favoured by the king. The third prince was well versed in poetry and deeply fond of Buddhist teachings. He possessed both wisdom and strength. However, when the king issued the Rodent Reverence Edict and executed ministers who opposed it, the third prince left in protest. The king was enraged, as all that remained of his kin was the prince least appropriate to ascend his throne. During this time, the royal sage,
how do you even
who
take
had
this
adopted
on?
the name Yellow Wind
How do you
Sage,
take this on?
aided the gods in defeating
I don't think you
Wukong.
do.
As a reward, he was granted one of the 6 hidden relics, Wukong's ears. With his newly obtained vessel, he took revenge by decapitating Bodhisattva Lingji before returning to the kingdom to claim the land for himself. With this revelation,
Corruption.
it is made clear that the headless monk that haunts the desert is indeed Lingji. Receiving word of the sage's return, the king rallied his troops and fought for his domain. The Tiger Vanguard's 2 children opposed the
guys are
sage
fucked.
in honor of their late.
Those guys are cool as shit. The trio of these Tiger Vanguard are cool. And they're both tough to beat. probably some of the harder, like, standard bosses in the game. Be it if you pop everything at once, you could, like, take them out pretty quickly. Watch a lore video from a Chinese YouTuber, much more accurate. Well, we're kind of already into this, like, 30 minutes, so... the gist of the lore still we're getting, so I'm not really too opposed to it, but... We're not, like, a completionist 100%. Everything has to be, like, pitch perfect. I'm getting it so far. And I think most of this game anyways, in terms of, like, trying to understand each zone, there is no overall arcing, oh my god, you have to know this information or you won't get the story. You need to know the intro, and you need to know that you're on a path to kind of reclaim the Wukong parts and then, you know, go your separate way at the end. Yes, that's it.
Father, as under the sage's companionship he perished. During the battle, the younger brother, the Mad Tiger, was wounded, and in exchange for his life, the elder brother swore fealty to the sage. As a result, he was granted his father's former title, Tiger Vanguard. In time, the sage took control of the entire valley. The Mad Tiger took refuge in Sandgate Village's dry well to recover his wounds, and swore to take revenge on the sage.
This was such a weird side story. This one was fucking weird. We had done this side quest. We did all of them. This one was about... I remember it. There was a kid in the village. See, this doesn't even matter to, like, the overall story at all, but it's still a minor tale. It was the kid who fell ill, and the father found, like, a miracle cure, right? Go down this well, the child will be healed, blah, blah, blah. And I believe what ended up happening was they bullied the kid or something, and the father wanted revenge on it, and he ended up saying, like, hey, to keep my kid healthy, you know, come back to me in the well and bring me these people, and, you know, we can make your kid stay alive, right? So he kept bringing people to the well, and he kept feeding them to this giant fucking tiger. And then eventually you go down the well and you fight the tiger, which was a kind of a weird thing. That was a bit creepy, that story. It's probably going to be explained, but that was interesting.
Even his own brother, who he viewed as a traitor. Whilst practicing his role, the tiger attracted the attention of a man whose son had fallen ill. The tiger offered a magical gourd capable of curing the boy. In exchange, the man was to lure other villagers into the well for him to consume and regain his strength. Eventually, the man and his son ceased to visit. Curious, the mad tiger left the well. Upon entering the village, he saw blood everywhere. The villagers had been slaughtered. At the village entrance, there was a small coffin, and inside lay the boy's body. He still wore the gourd the tiger had given him around his neck. Judging by the wounds...
Well, I forgot what it... I think the kid had been beat to death, no?
Been beaten to death with sticks.
Yeah, literally. I literally said that, yeah. That he was, like, bullied and beaten to death, initially. And then... The guy had his corpse in his... well... Yeah, that was a pretty creepy story, because whenever you'd walk around the village, you would hear a kid talking to you, like a dead child. And then eventually you saw the kid saying, like, oh, come down the well. And then there's the Tiger Vanguard. Yeah, that was something.
Likely by villagers who discovered that the man had led their neighbors to their death.
Okay, that's what it was. I got it a bit wrong.
Mad Tiger took the boy's coffin back to his well.
So the kid was ailing, and this guy gave the father an ultimatum saying, like, hey, if you want your kid to succeed, if you want him to live, you bring me people to eat, and I'll keep giving you the gourd juice. And then you can give your kid the gourd juice, he'll stay alive. And then everyone got mad at the father for basically luring their people into the well and having them killed, that they killed his son. Right, okay. Yeah, I got it a bit mixed up, but sure.
Returned to his meditation. As for the older brother, Tiger Vanguard, he is now a lieutenant for the Yellow Wind Sage, and resides in Crouching Tiger Temple, where he is kept satiated with countless offerings of ragwise for consumption. His loyalty to the sage is strictly for survival. In the Tiger Vanguard's eyes, that yellow-furred rat had twice destroyed his family and left them broken and scattered. He hated him for that, but he was no fool.
This guy was the first real hardest boss.
Protection from the higher ones. What more could a tiger do beyond venting his rage by devouring a few lesser rats each day? At the Yellow Wind Formation, the Destined One confronts the Yellow Wind Sage, who still flaunts the detached head of Lingji. Upon his defeat, the head is returned to its owner. At last, the headless monk is whole again. The monk shoulders the blame for the sage's reign of havoc, and thanks the Destined One for their valour and sagacity. As a reward for restoring order in the kingdom, he is granted the second relic. The theme of this tale is the concept of hierarchy and the perception of good and evil. From an outside perspective, the conflict between Buddha and the kingdom is simple. One side a saint, the other a fiend. Yet Buddha offered a gift expecting to be worshipped in return. When the Buddhist faith was banished, the deity summoned a Yaoguai to wreak havoc upon the kingdom, a reminder of who truly is in control. A king may hold power above his people, yes, but in all corners of the realm, it is the celestial court and high-ranking Buddhas who define the rules. The Buddhas believe that each bears a distinct root from birth, superior and inferior. None should disturb what's decided. A rat climbs highly only if someone sets up a ladder. Rebels such as Wukong and the Yellow Wind Sage are chastised for their defiant behaviour, but one doesn't feel his chains until he begins to move. Each party views themselves virtuous. The Bodhisattva took the sage as a disciple and showed mercy when he rebelled. Confused, I saw kindness repaid with hate. Lingji wielded great power, but his golden Lung staff meant very little once mortal compassions took root. Even empathy could be wielded as a weapon against its possessor if not used wisely. From the viewpoint of the sage, those who bring disaster upon others will have disaster brought upon themselves. This is the karmic cycle, meaning that his retaliation against the Bodhisattva was justified. What's the alternative? To surrender oneself to those above without questioning their actions or motives? Should a Buddha not answer for their sins too? Alas, it is for you to decide who is right and who is wrong.
It'd be interesting if you were supposed to learn something that you'd take with you as Wukong to kind of like regain your past self. Each one of these areas taught you something very thoughtful initially, and you'd kind of pick that up while playing the game. Because I feel a lot of this stuff I feel like you'd never know. If you read everything and you sat there and studied each zone thoroughly before even continuing, then maybe you'd get it. But I feel like a lot of this stuff was meant to be kind of viewed from, once you finish the game, right? There's just so much of it. So much lore, so much reading, but all of it pertains to, like, each zone. Disco's not today now. Anyways. Jamaican.
Every 500 years, on the peak of Mount Lingshan, an assembly takes place to debate graduating disciples. Two men sat facing each other, a young monk and a monk with brows of yellow. Yellowbrow asked the first question, "What is the meaning of life?" "To seek the truth," replied the young monk. "To understand the way things move, the primary law of the universe."
Is this all created for Black Myth Wukong? Was this all made for this game? None of this is still kind of playing off of the events of Journey to the West, but all of this is completely fabricated. Journey to the West was essentially like an old tale, Chinese folklore. That's already done. That's established. And this was all created, fabricated to be the sequel. It's like the resurrection of... So, at the end of Journey to the West, Wukong is essentially... He's atoned for his sins, is that it? Or was he cast down at the very end of the story? Was that what that was? Well, it's a sequel. Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. Chuck, thank you, man, for the 13. I mean, that's pretty cool. I thought it was more so akin to Journey to the West. Like, it pulled elements from that, but I guess if it's like a direct sequel, that's pretty cool. Oh, he comes back to his mountain after the journey to find his monkey slaughtered by the Celestial Court. But that's not really where this game begins, though, right? Because that's not how the game opens up. Because the game opens up as you... kind of a nobody, though, no? Yeah, he atoned, but he didn't want to serve anymore, and he wanted to be free, and they didn't like that, so they came down and killed his people. Oh, you're right. I completely drowned that out. You are 100% right. I completely forgot about the intro with Erlang. You're right. I was thinking about the intro as you as like the monkey on the mountain, but that is so long into the future past that point. You're right. Yeah. Okay, my bad. My bad. You're right. Wukong attained enlightenment and was granted the title of victorious fighting Buddha. What is a Buddha again? Is it a god? It's someone who can teach you things, right? It's like a master. Is that what a Buddha is? You're supposed to follow the Buddha's teachings. Reaches enlightenment. Yes, and then you've got disciples and people who take after you and stuff like that. So Wukong became a Buddha, and then all the monkeys basically wanted to learn from him, essentially. He became like the overarching teacher of the Monkey King. Okay. That makes sense. All right, sure.
Inhaling the
Keep
scent
going.
of a flower in his palm, Yellowbrow remarked, "Every flower that blooms releases a unique fragrance. This is the essence of its life, bursting forth for its own propagation. To feel such a moment to the fullest, that is bliss." The young monk shook his head. "A moment's pleasure leads to an eternity of pain. One will be trapped in
CBT.
a cycle, never at peace." Yellowbrow responded, "On my recent journey down the mountain, I saw parents who, driven by hunger, exchanged their children for food.
Jesus.
I saw dissolute sons of wealthy families who, consumed by lust, brought ruin to the moral order." The young monk retorted, "Those parents who traded their child for a meal will regret it all their lives. Those dissolute sons, living without restraint, died in an instant with their joy." "Nonsense," responded Yellowbrow. "Their struggle, their joy, their determination and their pleasure, their endless cycle of sorrow and ecstasy never ceased and never sated. This is the very source of the boundless vitality across the three realms. How then should it not be the true meaning of all life?" As we peer through a window
This
into
guy
the
was
mind of
fucked.
Yellowbrow, we gain an understanding of his principles. And
What I got from this chapter is this guy wanted to become his own. He wanted to become a Buddha, right? He wanted to become like a god. And he kind of plays you like one in his boss fight. He shrinks you down to nothing and he kind of like throws you around like you're a little pawn. I think that's what this one was, right? This story, this boss fight was crazy. In his own realm, yeah. This boss fight was sick as fuck. This one was cool.
leaves. He praises the suffering of karmic cycles while spurring the truth of liberation and enlightenment. To him, those who set themselves up as false idols, given time, their pretensions are always unmasked.
I thought it's a little
denoting
bit
that all paths eventually
grandeur for
converge
sure.
upon
Delusions
one
of grandeur,
truth,
yeah.
that it's within human nature to reach beyond our grasp. This insatiable hunger leads to suffering, and what is enlightenment if not suffering? In pain one finds revel, and in revel, pain. Thus the cycle of life is complete. Yellowbrow was steadfast in his ideology, and wished to prove that his path to enlightenment reigned supreme. He proclaimed himself Buddha and founded his own faith. Out of spite, he created New Thunderclap Temple, a warped reflection of the sacred temple on Mount Lingshan, a symbol of defiance against the established order. There came a time when the pilgrims happened upon Yellowbrow's monastery. Inside, the Tang monk, Bajie, and Cha Wujing kneeled down to worship the Buddha. But Wukong recognized that the temple was a hoax. Before he could act, Yellowbrow confined him within a pair of golden symbols and imprisoned the others. With help from the 28 constellations, Wukong escaped. However, the conniving Buddha utilized his mystical seed sack to once again entrap
Not the
Wukong.
seed sack.
Finding his escape, the Monkey King sought the aid of Buddha Maitreya. Together they concocted a plan. Wukong lured Yellowbrow to a watermelon field, where he transformed into a melon intended to be eaten. Once swallowed by Yellowbrow, he inflicted pain from within his stomach, causing Yellowbrow to submit. In the tale of Black Myth, Maitreya appears to have allied with Yellowbrow, summoning Kangjin Leung from within his seed sack to oppose the Destined One. She is one of the 28 constellations who had freed Wukong from entrapment. It's important to note that this Maitreya is but an illusion conjured by Yellowbrow. However, Kangjin Leung is authentic in her presence. This begs the question, how did Yellowbrow convince her to serve under his banner? After Yellowbrow's ordeal with Wukong, one of the constellations, the Dawn Star, was reported missing. Kangjin Leung sought permission from the Celestial Court to investigate the disappearance. However, like the Dawn Star, she also vanished without a trace. She was captured by Yellowbrow and sucked into his seed.
Not getting sucked into his seed sack. That's horrible. So what are the constellations? What are those exactly? What are all the constellations? He said they helped free Wukong. Are they... What are the constellations? The stars. So they're different gods. Different celestial entities that exist? Okay.
Not long after, when Yellowbrow released her,
Are they like adjacent to like the Celestial Court? Are they a part of it? Is the Celestial Court essentially like Mount Olympus? And all the gods live on Olympus, but then around in the star system and whatnot, you've got like all the other weird celestial deities, the beings? Is that basically what it is? Okay. Right. So, we should play God of War. Okay, makes sense.
Officer had become dazed and bewildered. She saw something inside that shattered her perspective and beliefs of Wukong and the gods and Buddhas she had once admired. Yellowbrow states that he has something belonging to Wukong within the sack. It is theorized that the item is one of the 6 lost relics, the Hubris Nose. The term hubris indicates that Wukong still harbored worldly desires. Considering Wukong had at this point ascended to Buddhahood, his secular yearnings were a contradiction to Buddhism, which advocates for the elimination of lust and desire. Learning of this, Kangjin Leung was made to ask, is he, along with the gods and Buddhas in the celestial realm, all like this? Yellowbrow neither confirmed nor denied it. Her question was valid, as she was shown that the gods and Buddhas were hypocrites, and were no better than Yellowbrow, who indulged in desires without shame. At least his way of life was consistent with his principles. After a while, Kangjin Leung suddenly knelt on the ground and uttered, "Please, Master, accept me as your disciple." Fending off against the dragon, the Destined One is imprisoned within the lower pagoda. Inside, the third prince is discovered. Recalling back to the Kingdom of Flowing Sands...
This guy was so weird. This fucking area was so disgusting. No, we're not even close to God of War. This whole area was so vile. This shit was whack, man. I don't want to say it's a Souls game, but every fucking jail sequence in a Souls game has got, like, the jailers that suck you, and you're just completely lost as to where to go. This part, you know what? When we were playing this guy was so strange to me. I thought when I helped him, he'd come up and, like, fight me or something. But I would say, when we were talking about it in this zone, I believe this is probably the worst zone in the game. This is the worst area to be in. Like, the pagoda is just fucking dreadful. No one enjoyed it.
Once left in protest to his father's actions, he became a disciple of Bodhisattva Guoshi Wang. After relocating to the New West, he heard whispers
his fallen comrade. Yeah, he's dead in the room with him.
Along with his 4 captains, he set out to investigate. Upon clashing with the monk, the prince and his captains were met with a crushing defeat. The 4 captains were bewildered by evil spells, forcing them to become devotees of Yellowbrow. The first captain, Wise Voice, sings beguiling chants in the dungeon to incite surrender. The second captain, Kalpawave, was transformed into a lotus flower blooming at the temple gate. The third captain, Void Illusion, had his limbs broken and reattached with limbs of others. The fourth captain, Lotus Vision, was struck by Yellowbrow's spike shaft cudgel. His body was pierced and eyes grew out of every hole. As for the third prince, he was driven to madness. Having blinded himself and deafened his ears, he muttered incessantly in the dungeon. His master, the Bodhisattva, never came to save him. His last and only hope is the Destined One. Escaping the Pagoda realm, the Destined One once again encounters Kangjin Leung, now in her human form as Kangjin Star. She watches over Bajie, who is trapped within a pair of golden symbols. The Destined One defeats the Constellation Officer and frees Bajie. Together, they ride atop the Turtle General to the north shore of
Turtle General.
Lake. In Chinese
there's
Taoism,
so many
the turtle
fucking
and snake...
Dude, there's so many goddamn things to think about and to look at. There's so many things. The Turtle General, the loons, the celestial beings. It really reminds me of, well, it's like a mythology, right? There's a lot of things to it. Oh, look at Mochi. Look at him. Mochi. Mochi. Mochi, look at him. Hello. Hello. Mochi, you want to sit? It's a lot to take in, to be honest.
The Constellation Officer and frees Bajie.
What about?
Together, they ride atop the Turtle General to the north shore of the Bitter Lake. In Chinese Taoism, the turtle and snake symbolize Shanwu, a revered deity of the north. The turtle general.
Wukong befriended 3 turtle generals, 3 general turtle snakes. Huh? We did see the bones of one of them, yeah. They didn't really do anything. They just kind of help you out. I don't think the rating, to be honest, has changed. I don't think I would change this rating at all. I think Wukong is just... So far, no. So far, no. I think it's still like a 9.5.
And snake
We'll see,
general,
though, maybe.
who represent this deity, were dispatched to subdue Yellowbrow. As the battle prolonged, a freezing wind howled, and a heavy snowstorm descended. Despite their immortality, the turtle and snake were bound by their natural instincts to hibernate in the cold. Gradually,
This thing was cool
they
looking.
grew weary and exhausted, their
How
eyelids
big this
heavy with
motherfucker
fatigue.
is.
The turtle general, unable to endure any longer, sank into the icy depths of the water.
Bastard.
As he closed his eyes, the last scene he saw was the snake general,
His friend.
unable to escape the frost and icy blades, being cut into several chunks on the shore.
Ooh.
Arriving at the Bitter Lake, the Destined One faces the 4 disciples of Yellowbrow, all of which are the antithesis of enlightenment. Non-Able seeks Zen through martial arts, but is blinded by arrogance.
What a weird... What the fuck? It's like the big baby Buddha, except people hung on them. This guy was non-able. He was a freak. This guy was actually a freak. He beats the shit out of you without even his hands. He's sitting on the ground, hands tied behind his back. He just starts beating the hell out of you with his legs. This guy was
lacking
tough.
the foresight to adapt his methods or onboard constructive feedback. Non-pure embodies deceit.
This guy was
he lacks
trash.
any
This
sense
guy
of
got
pride or
insta-killed.
dignity, and is therefore neglectful of his duty. Non-white is an actor with ambitions that
This guy is creepy. This dude was the creepiest of the 3. This dude rips people's faces off and wears them in the hopes that Wukong would come by one day and he would like trick him or some shit like that. Something like that. This guy steals faces. He cuts them off and wears them. That's what he's wearing right now.
or beyond his ability. He boldly plays the leading role of the hero,
Or something like that.
though
Maybe
he is
he's not
only
wearing
fit
it,
to
but-
be a jester. Despite much reflection, he refuses to acknowledge his lack of talent, instead choosing to believe that his appearance was the problem.
Yeah, look, you can see the blood here of like the faces he'd be wearing. I'm assuming that's what that is.
As a result, he peeled the face of a lead actor and wore it, hoping to find new success as a performer. As expected, that success never found him. Lastly, there is Non-Void. Whilst debating the nature of killing with another disciple, the conversation abruptly ended when the disciple stated that murder could not be justified, that the pretense behind justifying killing is itself a sin. Hearing this, Non-Void was momentarily speechless, as if reminded of something from the past. Journeying through time, we see Non-Void in his youth.
This is such an amazing... This is such an amazing cutscene. This was all done apparently practical. Right? Stop motion animation, frame by frame. You're incrementally moving body parts. This shit is insane. The cutscenes in this game are fucking nuts. Right? I don't think they show a little bit of that cutscene. Oh, they did. Even this one was great. This big fat guy in the beginning, Black Cloud, Red Fire, that chapter 1. When I saw that big baby dude, I was like, oh. That was weird. The second place, it went from like, oh man, I love this, to, I was not a fan of the sandy area. That really wasn't my thing. The snow place was pretty alright, though. I'd say it was better than the second chapter.
Scaling a mountain, he encounters a wounded fox ensnared. He frees the animal.
The fact that this didn't win Game of the Year, and I know it's just a cutscene, is fucking beyond me. The craziest thing about this game is the fact that they went the extra mile to have cutscenes that were practically made and filmed for, like, the chapters of the game. Like, I know this is the only chapter where this comes up, but, like, every chapter is cinema. We could share the link, yeah. It's... one sec. This is the Brothers Code Black Myth Wukong. The Brothers Code Black Myth Wukong. Ouchie! Oh, so...
He encounters a wounded fox ensnared. He frees the animal and tends to its recovery. The following morning he awakens to find that the fox had transformed into a woman. Years pass by as the two build a relationship and conceive a child.
Okay, we have to look at this whole part. If this was truly done practically from what I've been told, this is a fucking cutscene. How good this shit was essentially I forgot I was even playing a game. Unironically, when this shit was going on, I'm like, am I just watching an episode of a show? Is it more than just the game we've been playing? Because this is crazy.
Years pass by as the two build a relationship and conceive a child. One day, the man finds a trail of blood leading to his home. Inside, blood paints the walls and countless bodies lay dormant. Horrified, he peers into the bedroom to find that his wife had turned into a monstrous fox and is feasting upon its kin. Trembling with fear, he stumbles backwards. Upon hitting the floor, he awakens from what seems to have been a nightmare. Frightened that his dream might become a reality, he kills the fox and wears its fur around his neck. Non-Void attempts to justify his actions by stating that killing is a sin unless it's for the greater good, believing that by killing the fox he averted the likelihood of his family being slaughtered. In practice, his decision was not that of logic, nor did it account for the greater good. He acted out of assumption, out of fear. The opposing disciple disagreed with Non-Void's assessment, but perhaps the only person he hoped to convince was himself. It is not often that one gets to face the ghosts of their past, nor does a victim get to exact justice. With the help of the Destined One, the lingering resentment of the deceased white fox can fulfill its final wishes. Upon transforming into the fox, the Destined One confronts Non-Void.
For years, I've prayed you'd find peace. Still you come to take my life in penance against yours. You wouldn't understand my agony when I took your life. The Buddha sees no such vengeance. I shall usher you to the beyond once more.
Though a lifetime had passed, his soul remained tethered to the white fox. He lived a life of atonement and conducted endless sutra recitations. Alas, not even the scriptures could free him from this chain. Karma is fair but unforgiving. In the end, the monk could only let go by disassociating from his own being, choosing to believe that there is no self. Non-void is but void. It's an illusion, so why hold on to it? It's interesting to note, the names of the four disciples of Yellowbrow are contrary to Tang Monk's disciples. Wukong means emptiness or void, Bajie means able, Sha Wujing represents purity, and the white dragon horse is contrasted by non-white. It's as though Yellowbrow aimed to mirror the Tang Monk's journey, to prove his faith superior. At last, the Destined One steps foot in New Thunderclap Temple. Inside, Yellowbrow takes the form of Maitreya. He mentions that he and Jinchanzi, the previous incarnation of Tang Monk, were peers. Jinchanzi's nature made him question the supremacy of Buddhahood. He deemed all souls could be akin to a Buddha, and pondered on why some tower whilst others merely kneel and offer. This misstep cast him down to the mortal realm. Yellowbrow expands on this topic.
Reborn, he drew 3 disciples. But what did they change? One ended up a corpse. Others fugitives. He too took to the shadows.
This raises the prospect of Sha Wujing being the deceased disciple, as he's the only one not present. In addition, it puts into question the fate of the Tang Monk, who supposedly took to the shadows, which explains his absence. Currently, there are more questions than there are answers. As his monologue concludes, Yellowbrow reveals himself, and a battle ensues. As the fight endures,
he does kind of look insane.
The monk utilizes his magical sack to draw in the Destined
His magical sack!
Inside, we witness the macaque chief dueling Bajie. He was once a leader under Sun Wukong. Following the Monkey King's death, the macaque chief led his followers, seeking a new home. They trekked to the Flaming Mountains, hoping to settle. However, an infectious plague struck. To avoid the spread, the macaque chief ordered the infected to be cast into the Scorching Furnace Valley to fend for themselves. His harsh methods led to him being overthrown and banished from the clan. Lost and alone, he travelled to the New West. Here, Yellowbrow explained that in this world, the weak are oppressed, whilst the strong act with impunity, suggesting that the chief's suffering had been a result of Wukong and the war he waged in the Celestial Palace. Recalling the bitterness and hardships of the past years, the Macaque chief couldn't help but shed tears. He quickly prostrated himself at the feet of Yellowbrow. Conquering the chief, the Destined One faces the corrupted monk for the last time. Upon defeat, he withdraws from the battle and attempts to escape with Wukong's relic. Alas, he is swallowed by the ocean. Buddha Maitreya appears and apologizes for allowing Yellowbrow to steal his seed sack and wreak havoc
Not
upon
the seed
realm.
sack.
He was aware of Yellowbrow's mischievous behavior, but chose not to intervene, instead using this as an opportunity to test the Destined One's worth. For what reason is yet unknown. With Maitreya's aid, the relic is retrieved from the ocean. In a memory from the past, we witness a creature of the sea being captured by fish.
This is such a weird chapter. Everything is... The cutscenes are memorable as fuck. This one was, like, gruesome. This cutscene, I think, established to me that this game was, like, beyond serious with its subject matter. Halfway through the game, I was expecting some sort of, like, gooner material. Is this Yellowbrow? Is it really? But doesn't he, is this before or after? Is this where they find him? This is not him, you sure? This is not Yellowbrow. You got near PTSD. I was well, whatever this is. Oh, this is before Journey to the West. Okay. Well, whatever the hell this is, this whole cutscene was like, this was pretty gruesome. It's Yellowbrow. This is Yellowbrow. It's him transformed into that thing.
They carry it to their village. As the creature scratches a scab on its body, an open wound is formed. From within, pearls of silver and gold extrude in excess. The creature would thereafter provide the poverty-stricken villagers with wealth, health, and food. For its deific abilities, it was worshipped as a god.
It's got to be Yellowbrow because every single cutscene, at the end of a chapter is the people you beat. It has to be. Yeah.
A temple was built to celebrate it.
Wait, is
and
it?
all neighboring villages.
Wait, no, but you also got the you got the cutscene with the fox, so maybe not. It's him forming his own religion despite Buddha's. That's what it looked like, right? But at the end of it all, it was still kind of like a test. It was its own little weird thing. I remember he was conversing with somebody at the end on the beach. He's like, "Oh, look what you did. Look what happened." It's like, "Oh, I knew it would happen." Whatever, right?
One day, as the creature is performing its usual routine of spreading wealth to the village, one villager is overtaken by greed and inflicts a grave wound which yields a mountain of jewels.
Nasty.
Witnessing this, the remaining villagers are enticed to take their share. The creature is mauled and torn apart until little is left of its disfigured corpse. Following this, it is revealed that the creature was Huang Mei, the previous incarnation of Yellowbrow.
Incarnation. Okay, so in Chinese folklore, reincarnation's a big deal. Obviously, everyone seems to be reincarnated. Everyone seems to be brought back as something different. Wukong is reincarnated. And even though you don't have a sense of self, it's still you, essentially. Okay. I feel like that's a lot of different things, though, right? Because even with, is it Christianity? There's also reincarnation. Is that what that is? It's still Yellowbrow, but it's not him currently at that time. Reincarnation's pretty interesting. They don't remember their past life, no. But your essence lives on. Which, in my opinion, isn't you being reincarnated. Because how would you know yourself? How would you know anything? What does it even mean to be reincarnated? Physically brought back? Wukong was not reincarnated? But then what is the monkey trying to become Wukong at the very end? I thought that was him reincarnated, gathering his essences, essentially, and then becoming Wukong again. Your spirit's back in a new body. But why would that matter? How would you even know it's your own spirit? How would you even know that that's your own spirit, is what I'm saying. Only the soul returns. But what is a soul, if not memories and shit, no? Is that not what a soul is? What even is a soul at that point?
Mochi.
It's such an interesting thing talking about reincarnation, because my parents, I say parents, my mother, my family is religious, but they're not like super religious. Like, yeah, they believe in something. They had gone to church. They don't do it consistently, but, you know, they believe in something. And, you know, I think at one point my grandfather was talking to me about, like, reincarnation and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, if you're reborn, it's like, well, what happens at that point? You know what I mean? Like, what actually goes on? If it's not you at the end of it all, what's the point of reincarnating? More of a resurrection in the end. Wukong takes over the destined body. A new version of Wukong, though, not the same one. In Chinese fantasy, it's about karma. Okay, so you basically doing good and then being reincarnated into a better form, essentially, or you're reincarnated into something shitty, right? So with the Yao Guai here, you know the guy in the beginning, the Tang monk, the fat guy who stole the Kasai, right? And then once he died, he reincarnated as a Yao Guai, essentially. He turned into a demon. Eternal life in a way to follow the religion and follow it. A recruiting strategy. Well, I'm talking about, for the sake of this game, and I guess reincarnation here. I guess overall, sure, but... You gradually regain past memories of who you were. It's like a reawakening. I don't know, just something to think about. Because I see a lot of that stuff here. All the Yao Guais, this guy getting reincarnated, Wukong getting resurrected, reincarnated. Okay.
Jin Chanzi, the prior incarnation of the Tang monk, were discussing the nature of humanity. Huang Mei believes that humans are inherently selfish and greedy, whilst Jin Chanzi believes that humans have
When
the
I
capacity
saw this
for good.
creature, this fucking weird thing that had the big magical boobies, and it gave people the gems. The only thing I could think of, and this still reminds me of it completely, I didn't say it at the time, it's the fucking shore creatures in Star Wars. You know when Luke squeezes the boob, the nipple, for milk? He's like, yeah. And then it comes out, oh. I think it was in like episode 7. That's literally what it reminded me of. You ever see, it's like, I think it's 7. It's when they find Luke on the island, and he's surviving off the grid, and he goes down to the shoreline, and there's like those big nippled creatures, and he just walks up with the fucking thing. He's That's what this thing looks like. Is it 8? It's one of them. That's literally what this thing looked like. Like, it had the snout and everything.
To prove his point, Huang Mei conducted an experiment in the form of the sea creature to demonstrate that even with an endless supply of health, wealth and food, humans will always desire more. Jin Chanzi critiques his experiment, stating, "You chose a means to an end, not to a proof. You sow chaos and hearts just for the sake of winning." Huang Mei responds, "If not for winning, why debate over means and ends?" This statement solidifies that Huang Mei never intended for a fair test. He simply aimed to prove his predisposed belief. He took advantage of a poverty-stricken village, knowing that they would be starved for wealth. In addition, it is theorized that he had
fucking nasty looking thing. We gotta look at that creature.
He took advantage of a poverty-stricken village, knowing that they would be starved.
That's disgusting. It was this cutscene alone, like I said, that solidified that this game was not going to be Gooner in any way. That is what the hell is between his legs, though? Like, what is this? That's vile. That's so weird.
For wealth. In addition, it is theorized that he had taken control of the villager who struck him. This is shown as the villager is lifted from his collar by a supernatural force. The way in which he marched towards the creature also appears abnormal, as though he is possessed. In doing so, Huang Mei orchestrated the entire attack as a means of proving his point. The debate between Huang Mei and Jin Chanzi is one that is often discussed within Chinese philosophy, involving two schools of thought, Confucianism and legalism. Confucianism argues that humans are inherently good, born with the potential for virtue, and that it's the role of society, education, and ethical governance to nurture this goodness. Legalism takes a far more pessimistic view, believing that human nature is fundamentally selfish and driven by desire. For this reason,
What do you believe in? What do you believe in? That we're all born good, but through the shit we go through, it kind of shapes us? Legalist! I mean, really? I don't think humans are... Legalism and evolution supports that theory. Really? We're born neutral. I suppose, I don't know, are we inherently instilled with something because of evolution? Is that what that really is? You have an innate sense to be selfish for self-preservation and survival. Do we? Well, I guess we have to live, but I don't know. You're in too deep. Well, I don't even know what an example of that would be. What, buying too many bananas so the granny behind me can't have any? The human race would be cooked a long time ago. Probably, yeah. But, like, I don't know what I would... Have you thought of that? Do you feel bad thinking back to it now if you've done anything like that? I don't think I've done anything like that. Consciously, I don't think I've done anything like that. I'm ascending to Buddhahood. You can't blame society for being a piece of shit. I suppose so. I guess we... I don't know, man. You done worse as a league player. I don't know. Anyway, just something to think about. It's strange.
In doing so, Huang Mei orchestrated the entire attack as a means of proving his point. The debate between Huang Mei and Jin Chanzi is one that is often discussed within Chinese philosophy, involving two schools of thought, Confucianism and legalism. Confucianism argues that humans are inherently good, born with the potential for virtue, and that it's the role of society, education...
Humans are born inherently good.
and ethical governance to nurture this goodness. Legalism takes a far more pessimistic view, believing that human nature is fundamentally selfish and driven by desire. For this reason, legalists advocate for a strong centralized government, with rigid laws and harsh punishments to maintain order. In truth, people are neither inherently good or evil. Both qualities are innate within human nature. A person is a product of their guidance. Educating and directing people towards virtue is the righteous path. Huang Mei retroactively deduced the process from the answer. He led those who were vulnerable down the path of sin to achieve the result he desired and validate his way of life. Yellowbrow uses this same argument to justify his hubris. Within Buddhism, the concept of pleasure is not denied, but acknowledged as fleeting. The same logic belies an understanding of happiness. In the end, only aging, sickness, and death are certain and unavoidable. As for suffering, the notion is not intended to convey a negative worldview, but rather a pragmatic perspective that deals with the world as it is. Simply put, pleasure, happiness, and even suffering are all an aspect of the human experience. Yellowbrow faltered in believing that they were the meaning of it.
Damn. This was that chapter was pretty long. I think that was probably the longest part of the game, 2 and 3. 2 and 3 was incredibly long. And I think for chapter 3, it did probably have the best sequence boss. The best chapter boss, I should say. Do you blame League of Legends for the oxygen thief incident, or do you blame yourself? Some people will blame League and community. I mean, I blame myself. I'm in charge of my own decisions in League of Legends. But I feel like in some instances in life, there can be a lot more at hand that can definitely sway your thinking. Like, gaming is a lot different from reality. I don't think any sort of community online in terms of gaming is forced to be a certain way. You just kind of enjoy the game or you don't. You can turn it off, you can avoid it, you can just go away from it if you want to, but I mean, again, in certain societies, it's going to be different, right? Like, your way of life, how you live, how the government dictates things. You know, in some ways, in some instances, you are a product of your environment. Kids, I believe, are a product of their upbringing, for sure. How their parents are, how they are taught in schools, stuff like that. Taxes are optional. MOBAs magnify the bad in people. I don't think they do at all. I think it's about how much you care. I think when it comes to entertainment, it really just boils down to who you are at that time and how much you give a fuck. The more stock you put into... The more emotionally invested you are. I'll say this. Speaking from experience, the less I have going on, and the more I invest in one thing, that's when you kind of get frustrated. When you put all of your eggs into one basket, and you depend on that one basket for multiple things in life, when it doesn't go your way, you're going to get pissed off. I think, at least that's how I felt, I think, with League, right? We didn't play any other games, we didn't do much outside of it, and all of my entertainment, all of my enjoyment was just spent only through League of Legends. There was no other venue for, like, having fun or enjoying different things. So I depended too much on that one thing, and it was never giving me it, right, 24/7. People who put their value in games because they have other IRL issues. I never, you know what, though? I don't think they maybe don't have IRL issues, though. Everyone's life is different. I would just say some things can become so fun that in the end, it becomes more of an addiction and it's not fun. All of these games and things start out pretty humble. You're like, oh, that's cool. League of Legends, so fun. And then as you keep playing it and playing it, and you don't try anything else, you don't do anything else, you know, that fun you once had is now misery. Like, it's... I don't know, bro. League and gaming is... It should always be a hobby. It should always be fun. The second you don't have fun with entertainment, fuck off, all right? Like, stop doing it. Or reevaluate it. Ryan, hello, sir. Show the feet. Show the fent. When I was the most invested in League, it was when I had absolutely nothing going on IRL. I think, you know what? Probably true, though, eh? When I was younger, see, the older I got, it's not that I'm not invested in League as much as I used to be, but I think of the game differently now. I think of the game as I felt about games when I was a kid, where you just kind of play them to have fun. That's a pretty good way of putting it, though, yeah? You again, maybe just don't have things going on, and you put all your eggs in one basket, right? That could be with anything, though, not just gaming, yeah. The game is my downfall, but I don't think the game is your downfall. I think you yourself didn't have much going on, and the game was just there for you, right, 24/7. I think a lot of people, if you have a lot going on, and like I said, if you don't depend on one thing for all of your joy, I mean, you can have so much more fun with stuff when you're not bound to that one thing. That's why I say, like, hey, people say, I hate League, and then they keep playing it. And it's like, well, what else do you do? And they're like, nothing. Well, it's like, okay, we'll try something else, and maybe you won't hate League as much. Because maybe you'll have fun in other games, and then you could say, wow, I had fun here. What if I have fun in League? Whatever it may be, right? It is a game. At the end of the day, it's entertainment. It should be fun. And again, if you don't have much going on, you're going to feel different about that. Like when I was younger, again, there's no taxes. There's no health concerns for me. There's no family. There's nothing like that. Well, there is family, but I mean, like, people directly, like Ivana, Mochi, stuff like that. You know, I have my mom and my grandfather, but, you know, you have more responsibilities as you grow up. So games are still fun, but, you know, they're maybe not as addicting for all the wrong reasons. No, that's good though, man. That's good that you never got into it that deep. That's with a lot of games though. When you're a kid, you do things differently. When you're a kid, you view things completely like that's your whole life, right? It takes, you know what, man? It takes a bit of self-reflection is what it is. That's what it really takes you to kind of figure out, right? Like, maybe all of these things in life aren't the problem. Maybe I'm the problem. You know? Maybe I'm putting too much stock into something that maybe it doesn't need that level of attention. Maybe I can just play it for fun and enjoy it when I can. Maybe I should get a dog. Maybe I should go out for a walk. Maybe I should try and find other things that bring me joy as much as that one thing that's been bringing me joy. Right? So you can kind of spread your happiness elsewhere. I acknowledged my brain damage. It took me a long, long time. And I think looking back at like the years of League and the years of stupid shit, you really just say, you know what? I was the fucking issue. I was the dumbass. And I think if you can come to terms with that at times, it's liberating. Regain your former self. You know what's so crazy, though? It actually does feel like my life has come full circle. In a sense. Because I feel now more connected to when I was younger and just doing things for fun and enjoying them for fun. Even though I'm no longer a kid. Like, I think for a lot of people who get looped into competitive gaming, you will go down a pretty vicious path. If you want to be number one, if you want to be better than people, blah, 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 you know, you're probably going to be pretty toxic. I was toxic. I went through, I mean, I was a 360 gamer. Press 1 if you were a 360 gamer. If you press 1, you understand. So that bled into League of Legends. 100%. I never got out of the 360 era. For sure. I was a full-blown 360 gamer. That was bleeding into League of Legends. That's kind of how I felt. I wasn't a 360 gamer. Yeah, so chat lobbies. I don't know, man. I think at the end of the day, you just want to have fun. And if you're not having fun, you're not winning. Imagine waking up as a kid and just doing things because you enjoyed them. And there was no fucking, like, baggage or anything. You just had fun. That's how I feel with gaming right now. Either through variety or through League of Legends. I have no ego. I have no sense of, oh my god, I have to be the greatest. I just want to have fun and play fucking games. You know? And I think for me, a lot of that, though, did come from variety. Seeing that there are more games and, you know, they can be played for fun and not competitive edge. You know, getting Mochi was good, stuff like that. Getting back into Warhammer was great for my mental. Back into art stuff. Just, I mean, there's tons of things. There's tons of things that can bring you joy in life. It doesn't have to be a physical thing. It could be listening to fucking the wind blow. I don't know. Whatever. Everyone's life is different, man. You just gotta find what brings you a bit of fun. There are more games. No ego, I'm killing Erlang first try. Listen, when you're offered that sum of money, maybe. Anyways, let's continue.
No matter how many kings came and went,
This area is
the
weird.
family of the royal weaving office never relocated. They wove a fabric known as celestial silk, gleaming as moonlight, light as clouds. Rumors claim the estate housed vast amounts of gold and jewels, but those riches were never found. This sinister yet opulent land was home to the 6 sisters and their mother, the Violet Spider. The first sister was gentle and serene. She cared for her sisters like a mother. Her sibling, the second sister, was raised as a boy from a young age. She managed the finances of the cave and was known to be straightforward and generous. As for the third sister, she loved reading and writing. While her younger sisters were naive and her older siblings were occupied by their duties, the third dedicated herself to mastering the craft of the needle. In turn, she became the best weaver in the family. The fabric shop run by the second sister sold weaves designed by the third. The fifth sister was renowned for her stunning beauty and mischievous nature. In the webbed hollow, there were no children of the same age as the sixth sister. One day, 2 drunken pigwives pointed at the sixth sister, proclaiming, "Your father is a pig just like us. You are a relative of our old pig family." She retorted, "You must be attempting to
They're not
establish a
wrong.
connection with me because you lack skill in your craft and seek to exploit me. The one my mother chose would never be someone as despicable as you." Time will tell that there was truth in the pig's word. The Scorpion Lord also dwelled in the Hollow. He hailed from the Mountain of Venom, a land ruled by the Scorpion Queen, a Gui of Desire. She practiced the Tao of concentration, excelling in matters of pleasure. Noticing the Golden Scorpion Lord and his strong build, she decided to produce offspring. Sadly for her, none of the children were female, thus her skills could not be passed on. After a while, the Scorpion Lord fell out of favour. No longer coveted by the Queen, he took his sons and departed the mountain. In time, the journeyers passed through the Kingdom of Women, a neighbouring land. The Gui of Desire kidnapped Tang Monk, but Wukong summoned the Dawnstar, whose crow killed the Queen instantly. Sun Wukong set the palace ablaze, reducing her kingdom to ashes. Initially, the Scorpion Lord vowed to avenge her, but instead settled in Piper Cave, rebuilding her force and dedicating himself to the Tao of concentration, as the Queen once did. He failed to entice anyone, and the kingdom eventually declined. Hearing of the webbed...
Look how good that looks. That looks like a fucking... looks like a picture, almost. Like, the layouts of these missions, the level design is, like, super fun. And it's super fresh. Everything feels very lively. You know? Every land you enter, even the ones that's... even the second one that's, like, the desolate fucking sand-swept valley... It's very, very lively. It's super good. Just lost to Astrobot. I have never played Astrobot. I don't know.
Hollow, and how
We
it was
should
a
play it.
premier place for insect guis, the Scorpion Lord departed, taking his sons with him.
I'd love
In
to
the
know,
old
though.
days, the Scorpion Lord brought his 4 sons to the Temple of Yellow Flowers. The 100-eyed Taoist master, coveting the power of his venom, promised to arrange marriages between the young spider Yaoguais and the Scorpion princes. Hence, he
Kinky.
called forth Violet Spider and 4 of her daughters to meet them. Little did the Scorpions know that the 100-eyed Taoist would not permit the Scorpion family to amass excessive power. Therefore, the marriages would benefit him only. Each son explained their ambitions, though none of them impressed the sisters. Due to their competitive nature, the Scorpions would boast about themselves at the expense of each other. First to decline their proposal was the eldest, stating that she was occupied with the welfare of the family. The second sister replied she was too busy with the family business, though she would consider marriage if there was financial gain that would aid her family. In truth, this was a polite refusal, as the second sister was all too aware that the Scorpion Lord's mountain had fell to ruin. Following suit, the third sister spoke of her love of poetry and Lo Yin, questioning if any of the princes had read his works. It's likely the 4 princes didn't even know what poetry was, let alone who Lo Yin was. Consequently, everyone pinned their hopes on the 4th sister. And lastly, the 4th remarked, "My sisters, you were too polite," speaking so tactfully that they probably didn't even understand. This so-called meeting is just a scheme against us. We would end up with no gain, while they take our dowries and positions in our cave. How dare they consider us as the ones to be taken advantage of? They call themselves princes, yet none of them are noble. If they truly had any skills, why not earn their own fortunes, instead of showing off and making fools of themselves here? When the Destined One encounters the fourth sister, she portrays herself as aloof, yet her actions and words hint at a deeper connection. She may have been a lover of the Destined One's previous incarnation.
What?
Since the defeat of Wukong, centuries had passed, and the monkey had reincarnated many times. In one life, perhaps he was betrothed to the fourth sister, explaining why she saved the Destined One
Holy
throughout
shit.
their journey, safeguarding them
Kinky.
and showing them the way. In ancient Chinese tradition, only married women tied their hair in a bun, which only the husband could unfasten, symbolizing loyalty. Only the fourth sister and her mother have this hairstyle.
Maybe.
Furthermore, in Chinese custom, it is normal for a bride to give a dowry to the groom. Held within the cave, the sister guides him to a crevice housing many chests containing lavish items. This was the dowry left behind for the once betrothed. Approaching this,
That's interesting. What the fuck? Huh. That's a weird thing. Okay.
leads to the lanterns exclaiming, "Big day." With the Destined One's arrival, the lanterns think the wedding can finally take place.
Wait. What the? That's so strange. What a weird instance.
Knowing this cannot be the case,
Is that really
the
it,
sister
though?
silences them. Sadly, the Destined One has no recollection of his previous incarnations. Therefore, he is blissful.
That's pretty interesting that you've actually gone through this area as your previous self. That's such a strange thing to think about. That's so weird. As the player, you know nothing, and I guess that is reincarnation, though, no? If you don't remember your past self, or you slowly regain those memories, I mean, it's the same thing. That's funky, eh? She was with Wukong.
Unaware of his relationship with the
Weird.
sister. The lady held fast to hope, yet despite her best efforts, their union would never come to fruition. For this reason, she begins to weep, tears which were not visible during their first meeting. And lastly, she states the following:
From now on, we're both on our own.
an affirmation to
Yeah.
herself that their bond as she once knew it was truly at an end.
Damn.
Dotted throughout the region are various purple talismans, a potential artifact used by the Celestial Court to keep the spiders confined to the hollow, forced to become servants and weave celestial silk. The fourth sister advises the Destined One to steer clear of these talismans, insinuating they may have spelled the doom of his previous life. Approaching the final talisman, the fourth sister implores the Destined One to run, all too familiar with the dangers of meddling with the heavens. Upon its removal, the Supreme Inspector and Crane Immortal arrive. As punishment for interfering with the artifacts, the Crane Immortal says he'll transform the fourth sister into a golden pill for supposed safekeeping, a warning to prevent the Destined One from wreaking havoc in the future as Wukong once did. Ultimately,
This chapter has interesting details because this one actually pertains to Wukong. This one's probably the most interesting narrative-wise because it has to do with his previous incarnation. That's kind of cool. And the Crane guy is like, okay, well, we'll turn it into a pill for safekeeping, blah, blah, blah. But Wukong's like, what? Who cares? But he knows. That's kind of fucking cool.
transform the fourth sister into a golden pill for supposed safekeeping, a warning to prevent the
Yeah,
Destined
half of this shit that you listen through and play through in your initial playthrough, you just don't know what the fuck's going on. When I heard this guy and he showed up, I'm like, what? Okay. And then kind of revisiting it, you're like, really? That's
One from
interesting.
wreaking havoc in the future as Wukong once did. Ultimately, her goal was to obtain freedom from the chains of the Celestials, but like many tales, her story ended in tragedy. Through his actions of attempting to free her, he inadvertently consigned her to a grim fate.
Is that not what
In the
happened?
previous life, the
Is that
Destined
wrong?
One perished, unable to marry the fourth sister. In this
Sounds
life,
right,
she
though.
was stolen by the Celestials. Thus, he is doomed to wander alone once more. The sisters' actions make one wonder, should we look ahead and accept whatever future awaits us, or stay committed to steadfast goals? Perhaps there is no right answer. What matters is the willingness to make a choice. Shifting focus to Bajie, he was once in a relationship with the Violet Spider. At one point,
Is everyone
Bajie
just
had to
banging the
make
spider
painful
ladies?
decision to abandon his family. Scorned by this choice, the Violet Spider and her family
Granny!
held contempt for the pig. Upon his return to the village, Bajie is abducted and forced to undergo a wedding ceremony where he is to be devoured by the Violet Spider. Adamant that Bajie chose Wukong and now the Destined One over their family, the spider forsook reconciliation, aiming to destroy him instead. By using the needle provided by the 100-eyed Taoist, Bajie is turned against the Destined One, but eventually comes to his senses. To understand the relationship between Bajie and the Violet Spider, we must journey to the past. Initially, Bajie was an admiral of the court. One night he spied upon the goddess of the moon. He was enamored by her beauty. As he chased her, Bajie encountered
What a
a maiden.
freak.
The lady loved him at first sight, but he continued his pursuit of the goddess. Bajie happens to see the Jade Emperor having an affair with the deity. To conceal this, the paranoid monarch exiles him. Curiously, some believe the being depicted with the goddess is Ho Yi, a legendary archer, not the Jade Emperor, though
Game of
only an
Thrones.
individual with immense power and status, such as the Emperor, would be able to banish Bajie. Abandoning her deific status, the maiden follows him to the mortal realm. For this, she is transformed into the Violet Spider.
The fourth sister was using the Destined One to obtain their freedom from the Celestial Court, not in love with him, so she wasn't even born yet when Wukong arrived in the cave. Really? I guess that would make sense, to be honest, but what about the whole thing about marrying with all the dowry and all that stuff? Big day. To me, that sounds pretty legit, no? Most of this is made up for the game. Yeah, for sure. And that's fine. I was gonna, that, to me, whatever I just listened to made complete sense. Whatever he just cooked up in his mind, that made complete sense. Doing for his own gain. What? Really? Exactly. Yeah, I think they had something going on for sure. They had something going on. There's no reason the crane guy would say that. There's no, I mean, he made the connection to, like, in Chinese whatever, you know, typically you give gifts and whatnot. I don't know. To me, that made sense. To me, that made all like complete sense.
Another time, Bajie sees a lady called Gao and chases after her. Here is where black myth diverges from the original plot, as he was actually married to her, whereas in this story, their relationship is displayed as a brief encounter. As he inches closer, he transforms into a pig, punishments from the heavens. Gao is shocked at his form and flees in tears. Sometime in the future, Bajie learns of a celestial spring where women frequently bathed. Capitalizing on the opportunity,
fucking gooner,
he
look at him.
morphed into a catfish to spy on the ladies. As
What
it
is
so
that?
happens, the woman who encountered Bajie in the heavens was among the denizens of the spring. She instantly recognized him. At last, the lovers were together, though this would not be the end
So
of their
strange.
tale. Bajie could not be with his lover, for he was sentenced by the Jade Emperor to 1,000 lifetimes of love tragedies. In other words, his heart would have to be broken 1,000 times before his love could truly flourish. Fearing punishments from the Celestial Court, Bajie chose to forsake his love and his family, journeying with Wukong instead. Prior to his departure, he fathered a spider Guai, the sixth sister. A Chinese proverb notes the following: a man farms, a woman weaves. Bajie, wielding his rake, toils away, protecting his family from a distance, while his lover, the Violet Spider, weaves celestial silk for the heavens above. Bajie left them behind, sparing them from a harsh fate. This in itself was an act of love. Over time, the Violet Spider consumed humans, displaying her shift from a deity to a monster. As the tale unfolds before us, we can hear two voices singing. The male voice states, "Please don't look back when we meet in the next life." The female voice counters, "Please remember to look back when we meet in the next life." A tragedy indeed, star-crossed lovers who can never be united. In the novel,
I mean, the
upon
Celestial
reaching a
Court,
cluster of huts in the forest, Tang
they're pretty
Monk
awful.
decided to seek alms for food, but then he was suddenly captured by the spider Yaoguais. Sun Wukong, in search of Tang, learns of the Celestial Spring. Transforming into an eagle, Wukong stole the spider Yaoguai's clothes. Bajie then morphed into a catfish to take a look. Embarrassed, the spider ladies hurried to the Temple of Yellow Flowers. The 100-eyed, who'd practiced alongside the 7 spider Guais, learned that his fellows were humiliated. Thus he prepared 4 cups of poisoned tea,
Ew.
intending to exact
British
revenge
delicacy.
on the Fellowship and ultimately consume Tang Lung.
Hemorrhoids and bugs.
However, Sun Wukong saw through the ruse, overturned the teacups and defeated the Spider Guys, forcing them to retreat. The Taoist master then engaged in combat, prompting Wukong to order Bajie to eliminate the 7 Spider Guys in his stead. Following his command, Bajie wielded his rake and struck down each of the spiders, sparing only one. Remembering their brief affair in the water, he hesitated and with a final thrust of his rake into the ground, told her to flee for her life. Interestingly, Bajie killed all 6 of the Violet Spider's sisters. After being spared, she went on to birth 6 daughters. Wukong then called Pelampo for aid, who subdued the 100-eyed demon, and potentially confined him to Mount Kunlun. Now in the present day, the Violet Spider cannot bring herself to harm Bajie, and is defeated by the Destined One. She retreats and asks the 100-eyed master for aid. The Taoist removes the relic from her possession, leaving her on the brink of death. Infuriated, her daughters aid
These
the Destined
daughters did
One,
nothing.
defeating the Taoist and obtaining the Envious Tongue relic. The Violet Spider remarks that Bajie hasn't changed at all. Their love for one another has survived the test of time. Bajie looks back at his family. The youngest daughter at last realizes who her true father is. Somberly, he walks through the field. In solitude, he shall protect them.
Damn. That was a pretty fucked up one, though. That whole scene was pretty sad. This one, the crimson blood, the red baby child, I think it was something about them defying the gods,
Wukong's
or something they
rampage
typically
through
do
the
anyways,
court,
but...
he toppled Lord Lao's pill furnace. A few bricks bearing remnant flames fell upon the land. The region came to be known as the Flaming Mountains. 3 centuries ago, when the Bull King still graced the Celestial Court, and the Red Boy practiced under Guanyin, peace reigned over the land. In days of yore, the Bull King converted to Buddhism, and within a century completed his practice and returned home. From that day on, the Bull King's temperament changed. His former wild and unrestrained nature was no longer seen, shunning all invitations and travels, and instead stayed in the Flaming Mountains, helping Rakshasi with household affairs, and training the bull soldiers, living a peaceful life.
What I did like about this chapter, though, was that it was short. This game's pacing, I think the game's slowest zone, the slowest was probably the middle of the game, right? And they usually make the middle of the game the longest portion. Usually. Like, going from the sand zone into the snow zone, that was long. Those 2 are my least favorite. Before that, great. After that, great. Everything went by. 3 was pretty... The bug zone as well. 2, 3, 4. I guess the bug zone was a little bit long, too. But, this chapter was great. This was fast. It was fun.
Were sworn brothers. In unison, they defied the heavens. This would mark the first time Wukong battled against Erlang. Having lost the war, Wukong was sealed in the Five-Finger Mountain. Perhaps as punishment for the Bull King, Rakshasi was made to drink from the River of Childbearing, an event of significance as we shall see later. During the journey
she gave
to the
birth
west,
to the Red Boy.
Wukong's fellowship found themselves stuck as they could not pass a burning mountain. To traverse the land, they would need the fan of Rakshasi. At first, Wukong asked if he could borrow the item, but she declined. Wukong then transformed into the Bull King, tricking her and obtaining the fan. The Bull King learned of Wukong's
Chicken, thank you, buddy, for the
and so
6 months.
into Bajie to steal the fan back. In the past, Wukong also battled Red Boy, but failed to subdue him due to his Samadhi fire, a virtually inextinguishable flame. Only when Guanyin was called for aid was the Red Boy at last defeated. It was then that Red Boy became a disciple of the goddess. In addition, during the quest, Tang Monk and Bajie unknowingly drank from the River of Childbearing, falling pregnant. In order to undo this, Wukong required water from a special spring, under the control of Immortal Ruyi, the brother of the Bull King. The Immortal despised Wukong, the man who subdued his nephew, and so refused. Despite this, Wukong obtained the water by tricking the Immortal. Afterwards, the monkey and the Bull King engaged in a fight. At some point, Bajie killed Princess Fairfox, Ping Ping's mother. Having witnessed all the destruction, Rakshasi implores her husband to give Wukong the fan. As the fight raged on, the Monkey King told the bull to serve the heavens, for it is the only path left for their kind.
Wukong is a douche. I know his previous incarnation. I mean, he's just an asshole. I remember he was pretty cold in this cutscene. I mean, I don't know, man. Every time I hear anything about Wukong, or he's shown speaking, he's usually just a bum. Usually just a bum. Like, Wukong ain't no Arthur Morgan. Even though he was kind of a bum.
For now, these words would fall on deaf ears, as the king was enraged by the death of Princess Fairfox, and so fought with all his might, resulting in Wukong calling the Celestial Court for aid. At last, the bull was defeated and subdued by Neja's ribbons. Once the two opposed the heavens together, but now Wukong diligently served them, forming a rift between the pair. Having completed the journey to the west, the court still looked down on Wukong, thus he rebelled against them once more. Ironically, the Bull King listened to Wukong's prior advice of serving the heavens to survive. Aided by Black Bear, Yellow Rat, Yellowbrow, and the Hundred-Eyed, they defeated Wukong. Erlang rewarded each of them with relics of the Monkey King. Since it was hardest for the Bull King to turn against the sworn brother, he was given the greatest of rewards, the body of Wukong. In his final moments, the monkey explained his reasoning. With enough merit and a position before the Buddha, he thought their kind would be left alone. In the end, he realized, to merely exist was a transgression. With his final breath, he told the king to take care of his wife and children, and steer clear of his remains. Heeding his words, the Bull King never absorbed the relic, he merely ingested it. As his old friend lay battered and broken in his arms, the Bull King wondered if he had made the right choice. Years later, Red Boy, the son of the bull, was ordered by the Bodhisattva to return to the mountains. The Bull King, his partner Rakshasi, their children Ping Ping and Red Boy enjoyed a short period of peace. As the seasons passed, Rakshasi gradually noticed something unusual about the king. He became increasingly gaunt, he began to age, and he ate less, as if weighed down by heavy worries. Strangely, the Bull King sometimes transformed into his original form. Initially, the Bull King entrusted the future of the domain to Red Boy. His son also had his heart set on Wukong's relic. Red Boy remarks, "Father, you trust me with the domain, so why not with a mere object? Ever since you obtained it, you've grown more haggard." The Bull King told his son to never mention this again. If the relic fell to Red Boy, they would invoke the wrath of the heavens. Notably, the Keeper of the Flaming Mountains stated the following: "The king's mind is trapped in the past, intertwined with his old friend, unable to break free. Those past events have become invisible shackles, from which he can never escape," referencing the Bull King's past exploits with Sun Wukong. Rakshasi was a well-travelled and kindly individual, a princess hailing from the kingdom of Rakshasa, a land which had fallen long ago. Wielding the plantain
It's pretty faithful to the original novel. They only use the plot hole to fill in the other ideas. Kind of reminds me of like Lord of the Rings. They stay faithful, but like there's instances where they wanted to change a few things to make it better for like the film or the story moving forward. I mean, the fact that it is based on something and they stayed faithful is still pretty dope. Clear that the Bull King agreed to join the plan to kill Wukong. Well, if you're part of the Celestial Court, I mean, you're going to. Imagine defying them, and then they strike you down as well. I think once you're in that position where they own you, I mean, they really own you, right? I don't think you're really going to do anything out of their graces. So.
Fan, a felled creation of Lord Lao, she would provide rain to the charred lands of the Flaming Mountain. She had journeyed to the domains of
What are you flaming? Stop flaming people. Chinese Lord of the Rings. No, it's not Lord of the Rings, but it's cool that they did take such an old piece of like what would you call Journey to the West? Was it a novel? Was Journey to the West a novel? What exactly was that? Because I've never read it. Classic literature. Okay. And they took that and then ran with it. Interesting. I don't know. It's... So what would be... You say classic literature. So just written and it stood the test of time? Do people reference it for anything, or is it just kind of like a folk tale? It's like a story in China. It's just an ancient tale. Right? Clearly, I mean, it's made up, obviously. Or maybe it's not. Maybe Wukong is real. But it's more than a folk tale. It's folklore. Medieval novel. Yeah, it's like Warhammer before Warhammer. It's cool. The pilgrimage itself was taken from events that happened in the 7th and 8th century. So, I mean, that's really what it is, though, man. Whenever everyone's inspired by something. Everyone's inspired by something. If you want to go make celestial beings and characters and, you know, big grand journeys, I mean, you can base them on real things and then kind of have your own little twang in there, right? Which is always fun and memorable. That's cool. Everything is always inspired by something. Usually real-world events are like real creatures and stuff like that. Old Chinese tales don't expect everything to make sense. I was thinking about it, and I'm like, some of this stuff doesn't really make too much sense, but I'm sure it does, but it's not, like, insanely deep. You know, it's not like some sort of, oh my god, this really changed my perspective on the world and opened my eyes to a grander meaning of existence. You know, it's just more of like a tale. A tale you write, a tale you tell, and you're just there for the journey. They don't make too much sense. Well, were they all... So, in terms of mythology, like, is this... Would you consider... What is mythology? What is that word exactly? Is Journey to the West Chinese mythology? If we're talking, like, Greek mythology and stuff like that, with, like, oh my god, the Hydra, the fucking... who's the serpent bitch? Oh my god, Cassiopeia. Whatever her name is. Right? All of those things created, were they all made by Medusa, were they all made by one person? Would we ever know that? Cassiopeia, Medusa. Would we ever know if they were made by one person? Because to me, they sound like bits and pieces created by probably multiple people that were all inspired by each other that then form the basis of, like, this country's mythology, this place's mythology, right? Journey to the West is the template for a lot of stories. Oh, there's tales of, well, people always ham up tales, right? Beowulf is, where did Beowulf come from? Was that I don't want to butcher where it came from. It's, Beowulf was English? I was going to say something like Nordic, so yeah, along those lines. I don't think it's English. Well, I don't know. It's just interesting to think about how all this stuff kind of came to be and where it's been and how it was inspired by different things. Religious lore about fantastical beings. Dwarves. We love the dwarves. We love the dwarves. To me, it's just someone wanted to write Lord of the Rings before Lord of the Rings. That's how I kind of view some of this stuff. Someone just had the idea to create something, probably with a bit more of a meaning to it, you know, based on real-world things, and it just became kind of like the mythos of that place. Tall tales. You know, I think in Norway, trolls are pretty OG, right? There's probably a lot of folk tales about trolls. Beowulf is English? Okay. It's an actual work of literature, same as Iliad. So it's a legitimate thing that happened, but then they wrote mythological things into it. Essentially is what you're saying. Okay. Ways to... That's such a cool thing, though, right? Because, like, we've been telling stories since the dawn of time. And all of these things... Like, yeah, way back when, you know, if there is lightning, well, who's casting the lightning? Is it Zeus? If there were fucking trees down in a thunderstorm, what was it? The trolls getting angry in fucking Norway? That's a pretty cool idea. Yeah, for sure. Being able to explain stuff. That is pretty fun. But what a load of shit. It's cool. That's awesome that it can form the basis of so many different things. But, like, at that time, I think you kind of just took it as, like, the word of God. And it's like, that's the trolls. That's the giant cow. But it's cool to think about still. Maybe some people still believe in it, and that's interesting. But it's fun to think about for sure. Yapping retold. Yeah. 16th century. Hello, sir. Origins of the dragons in human history. That would be very interesting, actually. That stuff is fun. I've always had an intrigue in that stuff, but we'll see. Different interpretations as well. Well, they do pass down. It's one tale to another. Someone has read something, and then they reinterpret it, and they're like, "Oh, okay, let's do this." Yada, yada, yada. So I'm sure all of these things have had different incarnations over the centuries. For sure. That's fun, though. It is fun to think about.
She had befriended in the mortal realm. Abodes of the gods she had met in the celestial realm, the immortal islands on the sea, and even the underworld. At Tushita Palace, the master, Lord Lao, imparted wisdom to Rakshasi. I ordered you to raise a child, but I did not ask you to be a true mother. Let the boy stir his trouble. As long as you and your husband stay out of it, you will be safe. She was unsettled by these words, as she knew the true origin of Red Boy, and that the Flaming Mountains would receive no protection. The destiny of her family was predetermined. Ping Ping knew well of the Red Boy's malicious ways. Ever since he had returned from Guan Yin's tutelage, she had felt a change in the boy's nature. Ping Ping cautiously said, "Brother, you and I have always been the closest. If you have something on your mind, you can tell me. It's not easy for our family to be reunited. I just want to live peacefully in these mountains, away from worldly strife." Gazing at the burning clouds, Red Boy replied, "Sister, you should see more of the outside world. There is no such thing as living away from worldly strife. It's just self-deception of losers." Ping Ping wanted to ask him who he was fighting and why he had to compete, but before she could speak, she felt a blow to the back of her neck and fainted, suggesting it was at this point Red Boy assumed her form for self-gain. Red Boy's nature was reckless, vengeful, and unforgiving. The Keeper of the Flaming Mountains spoiled him the most. He was once a young Taoist who served Lord Lao. One of his roles was to maintain a furnace. After a while, the master introduced a newcomer. She was Rakshasi. The usually strict master was very kind towards the girl. From then on, the Keeper and Rakshasi practiced together. He discovered that the girl was adept in both Buddhist and Taoist teachings. No matter what scripture the master taught, she could always engage in discussion, whereas he often struggled to keep up, both in speech and thought. Sometime later, the master arranged for her to marry a Yaguai king in the mortal realm. Though the Keeper felt a bit melancholic, he understood that he was ultimately unworthy. In the master's eyes, he would never be a match for her. A lover's heart is hard to quell. His burning desire for Rakshasi persisted over the years. When Wukong knocked over the furnace, the young Taoist was blamed for his negligence, and thus was banished and made Keeper of the Flaming Mountains. In his childhood, Red Boy suffered from a recurring nightmare, which he shared with his mother. In this vision, many sought to kill him. In retaliation, he defeated monks as tall as mountains, strange birds, and fire-breathing statues, beings who were likely celestials. In this dream, he would grow into a creature with long horns, with spikes sprouting from his hands. Among the clouds, he would see strange figures, looming quietly above. These beings were the celestials, carefully monitoring his presence. Rakshasi says should that day ever come, she and the Bull King will kill all in the sky. Red Boy concludes, "I dreamt that they killed me, and I turned into a red lotus flower. And mother, you picked this lotus flower, and I became your child again." There was truth to the visions. He spoke of transforming into a horned form. This being was known as the Yaksha King, a fate which awaited the Red Boy. Many years ago, the Yaksha king was betrayed by the heavens, leading to the massacre of the royal family and the downfall of the Yaksha kingdom. As his empire burned, the Yaksha king
Damon. 1 second.
Okay.
Alright, we're good, folks. Mochi had to go see Mama. Ow! No, he didn't poo on the carpet. No poo-poo.
gravely wounded, gently held a deceased young boy in his arms. A white-clad Taoist, potentially Lord Lao, emerged and approached the Yaksha king.
What a weird
He extended
creature.
his hands above the boy's head and began to chant softly. Before long, a small blood-red lotus flower emerged from the boy's forehead, crystal clear and vibrant. The Taoist carefully plucked the lotus flower and placed it into a bowl he carried. The figure said, "This red lotus is the essence of your son's soul. To ensure it does not dissipate before successful reincarnation, we will need your life and the water from the river of childbearing." As noted earlier, Rakshasi was forced by her master, likely Lord Lao, to drink from this river, allowing the Yaksha bloodline to continue. And so the Yaksha king's offspring was granted reincarnation through Red Boy. If anyone knew the truth behind the child, her family would be doomed. Red Boy's existence would be the living proof of the dark deeds of Mount Lingshan. Initially, when the boy learned of his Yaksha origins, he vowed to avenge his fallen people. To do this, he would need Wukong's relic, held by his father. Fearing his family's demise, the Bull King imprisoned his son and placed his mount, the golden-eyed beast, to guard him.
This thing was so weird looking.
Unexpectedly, Red Boy escaped. Fulfilling its duty, the beast chased after the boy and engaged in battle, leaving him pinned under his claws. Witnessing this, the Bull King severely injured the beast to save his son. Truthfully, Red Boy was feigning injury, using this opportune moment to frame the beast and turn his father against it. Now the tables had turned, and the son had imprisoned the father. Red Boy states, "The one who wanted to save you, you drove away. The one who wanted to kill you, you saved." The Bull King replies, "Yes, you can save me, and I can save you too, but who will save us?" At the hands of his father, Red Boy had endured much suffering over the years. Perhaps it was this suffering, his hatred of the Celestials who annihilated his kind, or a mixture of both, that led him to lay siege to the Flaming Mountains. Scaling the terrain, Palak Stalwart, the vanguard of the Bull King, speaks out, explaining how the 5-element carts of Red Boy have blocked paths in the mountains. Blessed by the Red Boy Samadhi fire, the carts had become sentient guais. One such cart now contains the imprisoned soul of Ma Tiamba. Originally, he was known as Ma-Er. Upon setting foot...
This guy we never got to see the end of. The only content I think I missed in Wukong was this guy, right? I found him, but we never finished his storyline.
Originally, he was known as Ma-Er. Upon setting foot in the Flaming Mountains, he and his group were beset by guais. Startled, he ran for 60 miles. An old man took in the horse. As the years passed, the elderly man withered with age. In an attempt to save him, he placed the elder on his back and galloped to the Plantain Cave on Emerald Mountain. He ran non-stop for over 770 miles, yet by the time they reached Emerald Mountain, the old man had already passed away. Broken, the horse wandered the land until he came upon a sleeping bull whose fur was lit with fire. Concerned for the creature, he carried the bull to the Plantain Cave. When he finally reached the destination, he realized the being was none other than the Bull King. After a time of revelry with his friends, he had fallen into a drunken slumber. After Rakshasi woke the king, he decided to reward Ma-Er, giving him a place under his banner and the name Ma Tiamba. On the journey to discover the truth, why the Bull King was stripped of his weapon and mount, Palak Stalwart is bested by the rusty gold cart. Red Boy had sowed chaos in the mountains, and Palax died before learning this truth. As for Ma Tiamba, it seems the keeper of the Flaming Mountains had split the horse's essence, using his body as an enslaved weapon, and chaining his spirit to one of the war carts. Or perhaps Ma Tiamba sacrificed himself to keep the weapon at bay. Ascending the mountain, the Destined One meets Pumpkin. Impersonating his sister, Red Boy attempts to manipulate the monkey. Interestingly,
works.
long ago, Red Boy was discovered by Wukong and the Fellowship, hanging from a tree, a method he has now repeated.
Wow.
Remembering this, Bargia immediately knows that this is a disguise of Red Boy, but chooses to play along for now. Encroaching upon the palace, we see the false Ping Ping beg Rakshasi for the plantain fan to aid the Bull King and end Red Boy's siege. Rakshasi refuses. The Keeper voices his concern, then declares his love for Rakshasi, imploring her to leave this forsaken place with him. Curiously, when the mountains were besieged, the Keeper's Rockwise and Furnace Valley proved to be quite useful, suggesting the Keeper foresaw the Red Boys' rebellion. Surprisingly, Bargia was impersonating Rakshasi all along. Embittered, the Keeper challenges the pair, summoning the enslaved Martiamba and the yin-yang fish. This would prove futile, the Keeper is defeated. At the peak of the mountain, Ping Ping converses with her father. The king sees through the ruse.
Rakshasi said to the Bull King that she called for help, but no one answered. She meant other Yagwai Queens, Mount Humang was messenger, and he got caught in every area. This area is, this area was kind of weird for me. The only thing I had gathered initially when I was playing it was that there was some sort of rebellious kid, and his father was like the giant bull and his mom was the woman, right? And she had drank from the fucking flame river, gave birth to the thing, and it was like this weird abomination. But this zone I did not get much from outside of that. The names are so hard to remember, bro. There's so many names. The hardest thing about understanding this game is that each zone is its own self-contained thing, which in a way should be easy to remember, but the lore is so funky. It is funky. Cream, thank you, man, for the 35. Apparently you do get the horse transformation. I never did, though.
Boy to reveal his true form. After a brief bout,
Demon
the boy is
child.
defeated.
My son will be back.
King is the 5th relic of Wukong, grieved body. This relic may have been the cause of the king's mysterious illness. While telling the Destined One to not be fooled by the Celestial Court, he offers the relic, an act of reconciliation towards Wukong, returning his sworn brother's body. Before he can absorb the artifact, Red Boy intercepts. Upon contact, the relic transforms Red Boy into the Yaksha King. The fears of the Bull King had manifested. The nightmares of the Red Boy were both visions of the past and omens of the future. In the end, the Yaksha King is felled by the Destined One and Bargia. Lady Rakshasi at last appears.
My son!
I implore you to show mercy and spare my son. He is the last of the Yaksha's bloodline in the West.
Sterling, thank you, sir, for the prime.
Most
And Slop, thank you again, man, for the
tragic and
35.
twisted. Now, he poses a threat no more. Should you grant him mercy, I, Rakshasi, and the Bull King shall retreat ourselves to secluded meditation. Along with our children, we will never leave the mountain again.
Flames have paved my way. Through flames, I shan't stray. Vain was my flame, for revenge destined to stray. Their delight lies in our submission, kneeling.
I'll say this. One thing, as much as I want to care about the story of each zone, you as Wukong don't fucking care. You've got like the big lore dumps and all of these grand schemes that you're foiling, and you know you're subduing the land for your fucking artifact back, and Wukong's just like this. Oh, my balls have fallen off. My father, he beat me when I was a kid, and oh my god. Wukong, please spare me, daughter. I've loved you since birth. Please, You just walk around. You don't give a shit. So it's such an interesting thing because in a way I feel like the game wants you to care, but at the same time your character doesn't. And then for you, you kind of don't as well. The Baji stuff I did care about, though, because Baji is such a bro, and he stays with you the whole time. I actually cared about Baji's story, I think, the most. You know, it is tragic to learn about the lands and how all these people have suffered in some way, but Baji's story, to me, is, like, the most... Wukong is selfish, yeah, sure, but he still doesn't know what's going on. You as the player kind of don't know, and Wukong's just here for the journey, right? He's like, I want to get all these things back, and then... reincarnate, whatever. But I feel like for them to kind of go all out and have all these really sad scenes, and the lore behind each zone is pretty rough, I feel like they should have made it tie into the main story more, so that you were invested more. You know what I mean? That I think was one of the gripes I had with this game when I was thinking about it last night, and even today looking at all this stuff again, is they try to make you invested, and as much as you want to be, it doesn't pertain to you, so how can you care? I don't even know these people. Who? Who are you? Who are you? Who? 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 Oh, so sad. They need to... Like, again, you care more about Baji because Baji is your bro. Baji is there with you the whole game. Right? Otherwise, you're just stumbling into different lands and beating the shit out of everything and saying, give me my goddamn relic. But, you know, regardless, it is still pretty cool. That probably is the investment, though. But you say that, but are these people in Journey to the West? Are all of these characters in Journey to the West? Because I guess that would be an investment. You know what they need? This totally... You know what this game reminds me of? Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption, most of them are. That's really cool. So this is like... So it's, as an example, you had the prequel game and the sequel game, right? And you cared more about characters once you knew more about them. So as an example, playing Wukong is like playing Red Dead Redemption 1. You're there to do a job, and you don't know anything about anyone. But if you played Red Dead 2 first, you would know everyone in Journey to the West, in Red Dead Redemption 1. Is that not true? Just saying. No, I think that, for me, that was one of the big problems. I enjoyed the bits of the game. I enjoyed the lore stuff, but to be emotionally connected to it is hard. Outside of Baji, I think Baji was the best. Baji and Erlang, I think, for sure. It's like, I'm sorry, man, that this happened to you, but give me my artifact, I'll see you never. Sorry. Like, kind of. You know what I mean? I don't want to sound like a freak, but kind of.
Shall never witness it.
But yeah, if you knew Journey to the West, it's way different. Condolences. I guess in a way it is kind of sad, though. My son. Is he gooning? I hope not.
Returning home, the Destined One and Bargia witnessed the Celestial Army laying waste to the mountain, sent by the court to obtain the armor pieces of Sun Wukong and to destroy all monkeys, as well as the Destined One himself. Carving their way through the mountain, their advance is halted by the Supreme Celestial Inspector, the Jade Emperor's most loyal enforcer. It is believed that Bargia was cast down and transformed into a pig after the Supreme Inspector reported him, explaining why Bargia refers to him as a slanderer. In appreciation of the Inspector's impartial enforcement of his decrees, the Jade Emperor transformed the Inspector's head into the shape of his right hand, symbolizing that when the Inspector was present, it was as if the Jade Emperor himself was there. His presence
Elden
in the
Ring looking
mountains
ass enemy.
paints the intent of the heavens clear as day. After defeating the Inspector, the Destined One almost falls to his death, before being saved by Wukong's somersault cloud. Using this mount, the monkey scours the land, encountering 4 foes, each of which holds an armor piece of the monkey.
This guy wore nothing. He's got like bug arms and a robe. I look like a goddamn Darth Vader villain.
King. Initially, Wukong left his armor with the Yin Tiger. The Monkey King found the armor unsuitable. Perhaps he thought this suit, much
I like this set the
Golden
most. The
Hoop,
Wukong set was the
restricted
coolest.
him in some way. He advised Yin Tiger to pretend he was repairing it, a fabricated excuse for Wukong to not wear the armor. The blacksmith wanted to return it, but never got the opportunity until now. He scattered his armor, leaving it with 4 mighty beings. The golden armor is obtained from the rhino, the soaring braces from the mantis, the lotus...
That was so fucking weird. The mantis fight was so interesting. I actually thought it was more of like a side quest, but apparently it wasn't. Apparently it was part of like the main story that you had to go get it from him. Like, Baji is just walking around, there's a little praying mantis, the thing jumps in his mouth and starts like ripping him apart from his stomach. And then you go inside his mouth, in his stomach, and beat the shit out of the thing. That was crazy. The sense of scale in this game is done really well. Right? Everything you find from like minute nothingness to the size of a fucking mountain. And you see yourself in front of it too. There's a lot of like different perspectives in terms of like how big things are or how small things are. You know when you go into the guy's sack? Remember when he sucks you into his sack? And the camera pans up and it shows him looking down, looming over you? That is cool. That's really, really fucking cool. Or like you shrink down to the size of like a little bug and you go inside of Baji's stomach and you can see his inner workings. It's really cool. Like this game is done very, very well. I gave this game a 9.5. To be honest, I think I'm just going to leave it at a 9.5. The lore is good. I like the initial gist of like the journey to the West, but a lot of the stories in this game, to me, they don't sing above a 9.5. I think they're good, but I don't think they're anything standoutish that I'm like, damn, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, for me, one thing that increased the rating was Bloodborne's lore. Bloodborne's lore is fucking sick. That increased the rating for sure.
Bajia
that was a great experience.
Left behind by Wukong, awaiting a worthy successor. Etched upon the staff are the words "Compliant Golden Hooped Rod." Weight 13,500 catties, a weight equivalent to 17,750 pounds. Its name indicates that the armament is compliant to whoever wields it. Returning to the Pagoda realm, the Destined One meets Maitreya, standing before a blank mural. He comments that an old friend awaits. At first touch,
Yo, boys,
the
you do thank you, man, for the
ordinary
bits.
wall
Bloodborne,
absorbs the
indeed.
monkey, whisking him away to a cold mountain top. At the peak, the Destined One is met by Erlang,
Jesus,
the
this
sacred
guy.
divinity.
This right here, this is the coolest boss fight in the whole game. Press 1 if you agree. Press 1 if Erlang is the coolest boss fight in the whole game. Easily the coolest, in my opinion. Easily. He's got to be. The two different phases that you go through, he reminds me of Ishin. He 100% reminds me of Ishin with more of a cinematic ending. Well, Wukong is cool, but Erlang's like cinema is just fucking insane. You weren't here for this fight? Have you seen this game? Anime Titan, have you played this? I mean, Erlang's fight was cool, bro. It reminds me of Ishin. It's long, multiple phases, and when you think it's over, it's not over. Ishin's a freak. Erlang is a freak. You actually feel like you're trudging up a mountain fighting these guys. It's so cool. And it's super cinematic. You didn't get all the interactions from Wukong's broken shell? Broken shell. What are you talking about?
Erlang notes that none can kill the Monkey King, but Wukong
This
himself,
is sick.
on the topic of Wukong's final rebellion, he states the monkey
You
has no
haven't played
choice.
this game. Okay. Like I said, if I could compare this to anything, it's Ishin with more cinema.
Cryptic statements for
This is
now,
cool.
but the truth will be revealed in due course. Erlang engages the
Oh, the
Destined
last
One in a
boss.
duel. Should the
Oh.
monkey transform into a horse guy, Erlang remarks,
Do you want to feed the horses for the court, like Wukong?
Referencing Wukong's past station as a stable master, a position which he found insulting. Humorously, should the monkey morph into a rock guai, Erlang becomes perplexed. Perhaps it reminded him of Wukong's stone origin. After a long and arduous battle, Erlang proposes a break, retreating into the sky.
This is crazy.
Once
This part's
more, they
fucking
clash
insane.
above the clouds. The pair fall to the earth. Erlang transforms,
Holy
and the
shit.
Destined One responds in kind, morphing into a colossal stone monkey. During this confrontation, Erlang Shen retreats to drink, while the 4 heavenly kings intercept. Each king protects a cardinal direction of the world. Even with all their might, the 4 kings are dispatched. Yet again, Erlang enters the fray, though he too is defeated. As he lies upon the rock, Erlang opens his third eye, revealing he had safeguarded Wukong's memories. He then transfers the memories to the Destined One. With this, he proclaims that Wukong has won. Echoes of the Monkey King's voice can be heard, declaring he'll rip off the golden circlet and break free.
Great. The journey ends here. To bring them down. Watch me rip it off.
Wukong is, I don't know, I want to say, wow, Wukong is a cool guy, but he's just a douche who does try to make a case
Erlang
of,
then
you know,
reveals his brothers had tested the monkey throughout
atonement.
his journey, all for this day. In this instance,
Sounds
he's
like an
referring
asshole.
to the Mation 6. The first was the white-clad noble, who upon his defeat said that he feigned his loyalty to the Black Bear as a means of surveillancing the mountain for his brother, referring to Erlang. Second was
That was
the
his
yellow-robed
brother?
squire. There was also the green-capped martialist, who spoke of fulfilling an obligation to his brother, who we now know was Erlang. The martialist
How many
guided
brothers
the
does he
Destined One
have?
to the true Maitreya. Maitreya then ordered the Destined One to journey to the Great Pagoda. To add to this, the Venom Taoist and the Paleax.
So what is the appeal to Wukong? Because he just sounds like Dante. But to me, that's the appeal to Dante. Is he's just kind of like, just a dick. So what is the appeal to Wukong? Was he supposed to be appealing at all in the stories? What is the overall... Is there some sort of message with Wukong? Is this something you'd tell your children so they could, like, one day grow up to look to Wukong? Be like, I remembered that. I was supposed to be, you know... good person. Oh, you give him something in New Game Plus? Well, I mean, I'm not saying he's like Dante, they have the same motives, but I'm saying their charm... What is Wukong... Was he supposed to have a charm at all? Like, I guess we don't... When was Wukong created as a character? When was he created as a character? Like, eons ago, ages ago. Right? For whatever story. 16th century. So what if that was more of the guy's self-insert? What if he made himself Wukong in the story? Maybe there wasn't supposed to be some sort of charm to him, because it's been made it was made so long ago. That was when it was written down. Yeah, okay. I don't know. Maybe it was a self-insert. I don't know. Interesting.
Were also aiding the sacred divinity. Each individual played a vital role in guiding the Destined One to hidden lands, aiding him on his journey to discover his true purpose. Of the Mation 6, only one is missing, the monkey. Some speculate that the old monkey is the 6th brother in question, though this is never confirmed. In the end, the sacred divinity understood
He represents the
Wukong.
oppressed civilization
No
against
prestige could
corrupted
shackle
government.
him. No band could keep him
Fair
caged.
enough. Sounds
Mortal
alright.
death was what he desired. History shows us that Wukong was defeated by Erlang in his final rebellion, though the truth lies in the detail.
Power to the people.
One day, the Monkey King devised a plan, understanding that to shed himself with a circlet and gain true freedom, he must die. He could not achieve this goal alone, thus he recruited Erlang to his cause. Erlang was similar to Wukong, a character of rebellious nature. The sacred divinity was considered illegitimate. He was the son of the Jade Emperor's sister and a mortal, a product of forbidden love. The two would go on to have 3 children, one of which was Erlang. For loving a mortal, the Jade Emperor killed one of the children and punished his own sister by burying her beneath a mountain. To save his mother, Erlang split the rock with his mighty axe. This act would further enrage the Emperor, summoning his 10 children, the Sun God. They incinerated his mother, resulting in her death. Filled with hatred and grief, Erlang killed 9 of the gods, sparing only one at the behest of the moon goddess. Although Erlang served the Jade Emperor, he did not recognize his authority. An old Chinese saying notes the following: "Do your bidding, but do not recognize your authority." A phrase that simply means although Erlang follows the orders of the Jade Emperor, he ultimately does not recognize his authority. Furthermore, throughout Wukong's journey to the west, Erlang assisted him in taking down mighty foes. Perhaps it was this sense of camaraderie and shared disdain towards the hierarchy that he assisted Wukong. In the beginning, Wukong staged a rebellion against the court, and then Erlang appeared to challenge the monkey, playing his role to perfection. The sacred divinity feigned his swings. To ensure the kings and the celestial army did not interfere, Erlang thrust his weapon into the ground, causing tremors which toppled the warriors. Their ruse fooled the court into thinking Erlang was allied with the heavens, and that Wukong at last was defeated. After his passing, Erlang splits Wukong's relics, but retained his memories himself. Each relic holder was a being of great power, serving as a test for the Destined One. Wukong's plan was carefully thought out, though it involved hefty risks. He was placing his life in the hands of Erlang, as well as his own reincarnations, hoping that one day a Destined One would emerge, capable of obtaining and uniting the 6 relics. After Wukong's death, and many years and reincarnations had passed, at last arose the Destined One. The Yaoguai kings and Erlang would act as the ultimate test. He defeated all the kings and the sacred divinity, and in turn obtained all relics.
I do like Erlang too, yeah.
Signifying that the Destined One was indeed the reincarnation of Sun Wukong.
Most of the Yaoguai kings in the journey, I say queens. Most of the Yaoguai kings in the journey are brutal and merciless and cause many crimes on Earth. They are also, disciple, pet, relatives of the gods. When they get caught, there isn't any consequence to them. Okay, fair enough, yeah. Well, let me keep watching this, hang on.
During the final encounter between Erlang and the monkey, Shen stood back as the Destined One dispatched the 4 heavenly kings. Erlang also helps draw out his true power. In unity lies true strength, and only with a single purpose can the greatest deeds be accomplished. Wukong was right to place his faith in Erlang. Venturing home, the Destined One encounters the Mandrill Chief, a monkey who was once an advisor to Wukong. In the early days, the Mandrill Chief found the newly born stone monkey. It mimicked the chief's movements. This extraordinary stone monkey soon proved its worth, and after a series of contests became the king of monkeys, earning the title Handsome Monkey King. For a few hundred years, the Monkey King's kingdom prospered. One day, he began to worry about life and death. Upon learning this, the chief advised him to go out and seek the Tao. Having achieved this, the Mandrill Chief was made general as a reward, and the Monkey King became a celestial official, and the rest is history. Later on, an immortal appeared in the dream of the Mandrill Chief, who told her that the 5 skandhas can transcend all suffering. In regards to Buddhism, the 5 skandhas refers to the 5 aggregates of clinging: form, sensation, perception, mental formation, and discernment. A sentient being comprises these 5 aspects. The Mandrill Chief,
so if you find them all, you can bring Wukong back.
And obtaining the essence of each skandha, she can make the skandha's pill, and with it, potentially restore Wukong. Thus she travelled across the 3 realms.
I thought this thing was bad. I was looking at this thing the whole game and I'm like, this fucking gaunt witch. I thought it was evil and I had to fight it, but apparently this thing was on your side the whole time. She was trying to bring back Wukong like through a different way.
Searching for ingredients to make the pill, until she encountered a being that looked exactly like the Monkey King.
And she's like, oh my god, he's back.
Upon realization, she gives the Destined One the pill instead. Ascending the mountain, the monkey reaches the summit. Touching the stone housing Wukong, he and Bajia are transported within. Inside, we see a domain most beautiful, a boundless ocean and an amber sunset, a place shaped by Wukong's lingering obsession. At last, they are reunited with the old monkey. Together they ride a boat to cross the serene waters. As they traverse, the world manifests the memories of Wukong. The old monkey explains each tale as it unfolds. In one such story, the old monkey refers to Wukong killing his love, Baigujing, the white-bone demon. Baigujing attempted to consume Tang Monk. To do this, she disguised herself 3 times, once as a young lady, then as her mother, and lastly as her father. Each and every time, Wukong broke her into pieces. Unaware, Tang Monk presumed Wukong killed 3 innocent people and so forced him to leave. The old monkey continues, noting that despite breaking her 3 times, his heart still yearned for her, and it was for this reason that he sought to shed his Buddhahood. In the original tale, there is no mention of love between the pair, but some adaptations choose to portray Wukong and Baigujing as lovers. The old monkey then reveals that the Destined One is the reincarnation of Wukong, yet at the same time is not, explaining that out of the 6 relics only the mind was lost, but it has returned, reborn through the Destined One. He was the 6th relic all along. According to the old monkey, the mind is the unique essence to every life, therefore it is destined to fade away at life's end. He goes on to say that the Wukong Bajie once knew will never return, but the universe will always grant him a successor, one who will bear his name and nature. In this case, it is the Destined One. At the culmination of the journey, the monkey confronts the great sage's broken shell, a husk stripped of all senses, yet still attuned to the echoes of Sun Wukong. If the Destined One is to succeed, they must cast aside the soulless shell and merge the relics into one. Only the relic bearer may face this entity, one final trial from Wukong to test his successor. Bajie cries out that the Destined One does not have to take up the name of Wukong. Perhaps this worry stems from the past. The monkey's life was rife with chaos and tragedy. The Destined One forges ahead regardless. Having defeated the stone monkey, the entity ascends to the apex of power. Draining the relics from the Destined One, the shell almost perfectly resembles Sun Wukong. The shell's fighting style echoes his flair and audacious nature. Despite the struggle, the Destined One defeats the broken shell. Harboring all 6 relics in unison and overcoming all obstacles, the Destined One and in turn Wukong are free from the golden headband. The memories of the journey to the west are shown in reverse. At the end of the vision, we see Wukong raising a toast to his brethren. It then shows him drinking alone, as the court had massacred his people. He turns towards the horizon, opting to rebel against the heavens, signifying the beginning of Black Myth Wukong. Had the Destined One not obtained Wukong's memories from Erlang, he instead would be restricted by the Golden Circlet and sealed within a rock, akin to the Monkey King. Misfortune may be the harbinger of fortune. Perhaps in the next cycle he will succeed. To fully understand this tale, we must speak of the war in the heavens between the Taoists and the Buddhists. If one did not bow to the Buddhist system, they would be punished, as we have seen with the events that transpired in Yellow Ridge. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Their differing beliefs led to a schism that affected the lands and all who inhabited it. Firstly, the heavens wreaked havoc upon the kingdom of flowing sands by summoning Fuban to quell the rebellion against Buddhism. Second, they may have performed experiments on the Sun Rooster, the son of Bodhisattva Pelampo. It is plausible the Queen Mother of the West, who ruled over Mount Kunlun, allowed the 100-eyed Taoist to ensnare the Sun Rooster and infect him with a celestial egg, resulting in the twisted being known as Duskvale, leaving his childhood friend Hongyi alone, seeking a way to put him to rest. The Webbed Hollow and Purple Cloud Mountain became grounds for experimentation, where people ingested the eggs of celestial beings such as the Armor Worm, in hopes of ascension. In regards to Buddha's left and right hand, the limbs were purposely infected by eggs. Perhaps these arms belonged to Pelampo, parent of the Sun Rooster, suggesting the deity was dead. To counter this theory, Pelampo was a bodhisattva, not a Buddha, and so the origin of the arms remains ambiguous. The denizens of the Hollow and Purple Cloud Mountain continued imbibing eggs, oblivious that the heavens were going to forge pills from their remains. Ironic, considering Yaoguais consumed monks in hopes of obtaining immortality. Moreover, it is plausible that some in the Celestial Court feared the spread of Buddhism and those it recruited, such as Wukong. A perpetual war between the two faiths continues with no end in sight. Few can forge everlasting greatness. Many who are gifted strive for nothing, yet those who are not content with their lot are often lost in desire. Others seek a life of ease while seeking renown, but this itself brings dangers of its own. Wukong desired freedom yet sought Buddhahood. Can a single being attain both? Having faced Yaoguais, challenged the heavens, fought friend and foe, climbed the hierarchy of the gods and obtained Buddhahood, he learned a simple truth. In pursuit of lofty goals, he abandoned his liberty. He was happiest as a simple monkey, under the tutelage of Bodhi. Accepted, cherished and loved, Bodhi never looked down on him as others did. At one time, Wukong revealed his innermost thoughts to Bajie. During a feast in his drunken state, Wukong remarked that they should abandon their positions and return to their respective homes. As Bajie began to black out from the excessive drinking, he heard Wukong mutter, "Immortality is not for me." And so, with his heart set on rebirth, he faced death with clarity. He obtained freedom, but the legendary Sun Wukong as we once knew him was no more. Will the Celestial Court endure this newfound existence, or will the Destined One rebel as Wukong did? Only time will tell. Some interpret Journey to...
So, at the end of it all, so the gist of Wukong was that he fucked up, he atoned for his sins, whatever, with the Journey to the West, and he rebelled against the gods, who then slayed his people and then banished him, and he blew up. He died. Then he was reincarnated, or his descendant, the Destined One, eventually would become the new Wukong. To what end does that matter? To what end does that matter? Like, I asked that at the beginning of this, and I'm still kind of curious. Like, I just don't feel like it went anywhere. Maybe I'm not understanding it in terms of his purpose, but no, he learns from the Old One's mistake. But is he still trying to defy the Celestial Court? Is he trying to destroy the Celestial Court? Is he still pissed off at them? He wants to be reborn without being a slave. But then wouldn't they try and come for him anyways because they know who he is and what he's capable of? That's what I'm trying to say. If Wukong is dead now, the old Wukong is dead, the Celestial Court, all that stuff is gone. The new one, he's back. And now he's just going to go live free? Is he going to try and take on the Celestial Court again? Wait for the DLC for an answer. I was going to say, because like it kind of leaves it at just kind of nothing. Right? You have all this power, you're reincarnated, it's a new version of Wukong, and now what does he do? I guess there wasn't supposed to be an ending, because if there is a DLC, then there it is. They have Wukong's relics to fight back, and Buddha says, help you come back, so you have the Taoist in check? Okay. Well, I'm still just curious, though. Again, like, even if you go through all that stuff, and everything the people you have gone through had a hand in, like, what you were doing, it's just... I don't know. We'll see. No DLC was confirmed. They may announce... Wait, so there is no DLC? I thought somebody said DLC was announced. Yeah, Wukong doesn't want to be a slave to anyone. No, he doesn't. Yeah, the whole circlet thing, every time he'd say something, it'd fucking constrict his head like a gourd, and yeah. He was their slave. But that's because they gave him godhood. Right? If they give him something, he's kind of in debt to them now. Is that why? It's expected to be announced later this year, probably soon, if they release the game on Xbox. You know what? I hope they do DLC. This game was really good. I'm still going to say this game is a 9.5. I would say 9.5, to be honest. The story, I don't think, is as captivating. I don't think it's as, like, insane as, you know... I'm less intrigued with the story compared to other stories. I think it's still good, though. I think the game is still good, don't get me wrong. But I don't think this video or, you know, talking about or thinking about the lore and whatnot, the story has a lot of what's going on. I think it's a 9.5. Not 9.25 at the lowest, 9 at the lowest, roughly, but no, this game's great. His reincarnation is absolved of his former crimes and can live the life he envisioned for himself. by protecting what is dear to him and enjoying his freedom. Well, that's cool. Okay. So not being burdened by your past crimes and whatnot, even if you're reincarnated. You would say Wukong is on par with Outer Wilds, Subnautica, Last of Us as a whole experience. Yes. Yeah, I would. I would. I think the number one thing... I actually think, for me, Outer Wilds, Red Dead Redemption, and Subnautica actually make you feel something as a person. I don't think this game makes me feel something as a person, but I do think this game is a work of art. I think yesterday I might have gone a little bit overboard and said this was the greatest, like, 9.5 game. And after knowing the story and kind of thinking about it, I don't think it's at that level, but I think it's up there still. Like, what I think to me is the greatest experience in gaming is something that actually, like breaks a part of you as a person. Not to say that that makes a great game, but that is such an insane feeling to be at that level when playing a game. Red Dead Redemption, Arthur, Outer Wilds, the ending, Subnautica, the journey of you being stranded on an island. You feel like you're fucking lost in space. Those things, I guess it's because they're so human. To be honest, I think it's because they're very human. Even Cyberpunk is up there, yeah, because all of those stories are so human. Wukong isn't really a human tale. It's again, it's like a fantasy, mythological, you know, grand retelling of something. I think that's why. I think that's why they're so interesting to me. It's because they're human. I'm going to say Wukong is still a 9.5. As a work of art, this is just, it's super amazing. I mean, this is such an amazing game. They clearly knew what they wanted to do. And I'm surprised it didn't win Game of the Year. I don't know, again, what Astrobot really had to offer, but this game is, like, phenomenal. Well, what do you mean? Subnautica has nothing to do with pirates or any of that stuff. Unholy glaze for Red Dead 2. I think you have to. I think you have to glaze Red Dead. If this game made me feel like Arthur Morgan did in some aspect, I mean, this game would be like a 9.75. If the lore was something that you came to care about during the game, that would be like a 9.75. I think they nailed most aspects in this game, but it is still kind of hard to care about the events of some of these things. And they're kind of, it reminds me of Death Stranding, where in some of the events they want you to care, but you just don't know enough to really care. This game is a spectacle. That's a good way to put it. This game is a spectacle. For sure. Games Awards are a sham. There's zero reason to compare this game to Astro and vice versa. You know what? It's not that you could... Okay. Comparing them makes no sense, technically, because it really is just the fans. It's the people who played it. You know, you could say, oh, the higher-ups had their choice. Whatever the fuck it was, how it should be at the end of the day is one game had a bigger audience and a lot more people appreciating it. The other game maybe didn't and wasn't as liked, but it still is amazing in its own right. Gone for a few days and he's still talking about Red Dead. I think it's just such... It's such an experience, bro. You'll never get rid of Red Dead. You'll never get rid of Red Dead. Audience vote went to Wukong and was one-sided. Hang on. I'm curious. I don't want to watch content regarding... Wait, are we done this? Hang on.
The West as a political satire, a method for the author Wu Chenggen to critique the Ming Dynasty and their faith. In that tale, Wukong completed the journey and achieved enlightenment, free from the headband. Conversely, Black Myth presents enlightenment and Buddhahood as a prison. Its title held no answers for Wukong, for he was still restrained by the Golden Hoop. Nevertheless, the journey to the West ended years ago. The Black Myth has just begun.
Yeah,
now bearing
okay.
his name, the Destined One faces...
So that right there, The Destined One faces perils unknown. Exactly. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, where did this go? Where did this story go? And it kind of went, in a way, nowhere. You're reset. I feel like the Celestial Court, knowing what you could be, knowing what you could remember, knowing what you've done in your past, will come for you. Why wouldn't they? I thought at the very end of the game, you'd take on the Celestial Court and destroy the heavens themselves. That's what I thought you'd do. You say, no more of this nonsense, and up you go and destroy them all. This shit, this will get a DLC. This will get a DLC for sure.
Known. The journey begins anew. The tale remains unfinished.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking.
All I ever wanted was a life in my mountain. Free from you and your so-called merits. Those high above don't trust me. I understand that. And they send you and those knuckleheads to threaten me. To obey and serve once more. I understand that too. But what I don't understand is... you bastards killing my kind!
So that right there is the whole story.
Six senses of the great sage. Yet no one has ever seen them. Not in centuries. Among you...
Well, the character you play is just a shell of... They're the supposed Destined One. It'd be interesting if you actually did speak, though. If you're supposed to be the reincarnation of Wukong, why is it only once you regain the pieces of your past self that you become anything? Wouldn't you still be something new? It would be cool to be some sort of, like, young, you know, up-and-coming dude. You know, you have a bit of fire and stuff like that. Well, you're not Wukong yet, but you are still somebody. You're not nobody. You know what I mean?
There might be one who is destined. Never heard tell of...
I guess we'll see. If there is a DLC, we'll see.
Destined one, my friend. They say he marches and fights on a quest to bring back the great sage.
Their delight lies in our submission, kneeling and begging.
They say you are the Destined One.
I guess with everything you've gone through in the game, too, I guess the way you could view it is all the stories in each of the zones, to me, is what the gods have done to people who have defied them. And that's kind of what you had gone through as well, right? And you're just kind of like taking back the pieces of yourself from what they've done to those people and what you've potentially done to them as well in your past life. Everything kind of comes full circle, right? Essentially. I feel like in the DLC, you'd probably take on the Celestial Court. That's what I think. I think it's going to be insane if they do that, but... That's what Badgie told you before, the Great Sage Broken Shell. No, I'm sure there's a bunch of other cool stories, for sure. Rescue the Fourth Sister. I don't even know, man. This game is dope, though. This game's cool, for sure. Performance is pretty bad. Well, I played on PS5 Pro on the lowest settings, and it lagged. And it lagged thoroughly. Simo for 13 months. Thank you, man. Another month, more challenges. Fortunately, Tobias remains the same. As always, sir. I'm glad I can be here with you guys for so long. I hope I'll reach 2 years. Hey, you will, sir. And thank you, man. Well, performance on PC usually is fine because you can crank all your settings to, like, insanity. But when it comes to the PlayStation, it's got its limits. Right? And this game wasn't really developed strictly for the PlayStation. You know, if you want to talk about performance, one of the greatest games performance-wise that we played was Death Stranding 2. Since that game was strictly made for PS5, the performance is astounding. It's fucking sick. It's so good. No lag, no hiccups, nothing. Perfectly fucking manufactured for the PlayStation. And it felt amazing. Yeah, I don't know. Wukong was a good game, man.
But if destiny is set, what difference do our actions make?
No band can keep him caged. May you not fail him. Your journey, though, has just begun.
Right. So that to me sets up a sequel. All right, you know what? It's cool. Okay, so you reincarnate as Wukong. You collect the pieces of yourself while going through your past, venturing into zones that have been stripped away by the gods and whatnot, as once your life was. And you're seeing what it has done, and, you know, maybe in the end, you do become that guy who takes on the heavens and says, look what you guys have done, no more, right? If I don't stop you, you're going to keep getting worse and worse, and people are going to suffer. Maybe that's it then. Does that make sense? That's what I've gathered. Skyfall, thank you, man, for the 13. Wukong wouldn't care for justice, except for his monkeys. Maybe this Wukong's different. Isn't that kind of the point of reincarnation? Right? It's a better you. Ideally, potentially, you could just be someone new. Maybe that's it. I mean, everything you see, thinking about it now, yeah, each of the zones you go through is pretty fucked over. Like, you don't have a hand in it, but everyone else had their own shit deals with the gods and whatnot. You didn't have a health bar and mana bar because in the story Wukong reached true immortality. That is a fun detail, yeah, for sure. I feel like there would be a sequel, a grand finale, because you need to know more about what you're... Like, everyone says your journey has just begun. You finally have reincarnated. You're back. You're the savior of the monkeys. But what if the Celestial Court comes after you again? What if all these other players come into effect? Who knows, right? If this is all fabricated now, and it's still played off of A Journey to the West, they could potentially just keep doing shit whenever they want, right? There's more content, more content, more content. They could just keep creating whatever they want. Folks, I'm going to take a 5-minute break. When I come back, we'll watch maybe 1 or 2 more Wukong videos. It won't be very long, but I think we've understood the story. We'll watch a bit of content that we might have missed, like the horse guy, the alternate ending, stuff like that. So we'll see that, and then we will do Discord sharing, and then Squirrel with a Gun might be tomorrow. Because I have to leave it around 6 to 7, so I don't know if we have time for Squirrel with a Gun. So maybe tomorrow. And then we could do Squirrel with a Gun and then Disco Elysium, like, right after each other. So BRB, folks, 5-minute break. Let me just go use the bathroom. And I will be right back. Squirrel with a Gun's supposed to be a shitpost of a game. It's not supposed to be anything crazy. BRB, folks. 1 second. I'm only on chapter 5 right now. Well, don't watch the damn video! BRB, folks. All right, we're back. Oh, we're here. Mochi. Look. My son. Demon. What's up, little buddy? Look at him. Look at him. What's up? I love you, Mochi. So cute. Go. Go, 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 go. He's gonna go see Mama. All right. Excuse me. So, what content did we miss in Wukong? What did we miss? All 5 endings. All 5 endings, cutscenes, 5 endings. I know for a fact we missed the endings.
Hello gamers and friends, I believe some of you have questions about the 5 animations at the end of each chapter in the game Black Myth Wukong. So today I come with references to
Okay, Space, thank you man for the 56.
Insert them all today. It's a long video, so here's a brief timestamp for your users to subdue Wukong. From this, you can see how much the Celestial Court and Mount Lingshan value.
Okay, we do know this, but what about the ending? 1 second. Evil ending, Black Myth Wukong. Bad ending and true ending. Okay, so we got the true ending. That's the one that we got, so let's watch that. So this is the bad ending. We ended up... So the only way to get the true ending is to beat Erlang to then get your consciousness, your mind, the last piece of Wukong that you wouldn't be able to get unless you fought him. Which means you don't form anew and you're kind of like a puppet and you can be used around and whatever, yeah. Does it actually make a difference though? How do you stay? Wait, hang on. So we've already seen this. This is standard.
Some say he helped Tung Monk fetch the scriptures, was granted Buddhahood, and stayed on Mount Lingshan thereafter. Some say it was not him who was granted Buddhahood. The real him was already dead on the journey to the west. Some say that the journey never happened. He is nothing but a monkey who lives in some storyteller's tall tale. But now, you will hear a tale which no one has ever known.
He's free. But how do you end up in the egg again? What does that mean? Fuck, look at those graphics. Holy shit. He's like in the room with me. Monkey! Yeah. You are no longer the destined one. Crazy to think that you have to find Erlang to even get the full ending. I'm not sure if I like that. I do and I don't, to be honest. Oh, you stay inside the egg because you go in the egg initially. Right. That's so... And, oh my god. That's creepy, though, eh? That's kind of creepy. Your consciousness is just stuck inside the egg now. You did all of that for nothing. That's a fucked up ending. That's kind of a fucked up ending. I don't like that ending. And that's probably the standard ending everyone got. That's fucked up. Look at that. How horrible is that? Only the true destined one could find the ending. I guess so. How depressing was that? Yeah, and then because you get your memories back and everything here. You awaken. I'm him! That's cool. That, okay, interesting. Kind of cursed, though, eh? Kind of cursed. Secret boss interactions. How do you even find that? Secret boss interactions? Yaksha King? Let me see. Let's at least look at the Yaksha King one. The Yaksha King soundtrack, where it's like actual instruments playing, like guitars, that was kind of crazy. This guy's a scrub. What about me? I dogged on this guy. Hit him! And maybe you're not supposed to hit him at all. Maybe you're supposed to... Baby head. Oh shit.
The destined one. Oh, the irony. Tell me then, is my kind destined for extermination? A monkey born from unfinished stone.
So it's essentially... So the hidden interactions are essentially just cutscenes within the fight. Like, when I drank the gourd during the final scene against Wukong, I actually thought that was part of the fight. I didn't realize it was, like, taking me out of it for a second for, like, something fun. I mean, that's your opinion, though. I firmly believe Subnautica, it deserves, like, a 9.5. A 9.5. You have to realize it's also what the game makes you feel. I mean, there's a way to... When you, for how I view games, if the game is really well done, clearly there's a vision, clearly there's work and effort put into it, yeah, it's going to get a good rating. Is it fun? Sure. Does it drain you emotionally? Does it make you feel something as a human being to the point where it's so insane? Right? That's what Subnautica made me feel. Subnautica is one of those games where you actually feel like you've left your room and are on a completely different planet. The immersion was top tier. So for me, that game genuinely felt like I was leaving a fucking planet. And for that reason, that's why it's a 9.5. It's, yeah. Well, I'm just saying, that's how I feel about games. No, that game is so good. Okay, so is there anything else Wukong related? I think we really just wrapped up Wukong. I think that's really just it, to be honest. All right, you know what? With that being said, I understand the story. I get it. I get the game. 9.5. Nothing is changing. I like it, man. I think it's great. I think it's like... I'm going to keep comparing it to the Souls games because that's what I feel like personally it to me is. It is a more action-oriented, more cinematic-driven, more linear experienced Souls game. To me, that's what it screams the most. It's not a one-to-one Souls formula, but like it is in the vein of a Souls game from what I've played. So I'm going to give it a 9.5. That shit was top tier. And I liked it, man. Great fucking game. I would even say this is a must-play. I feel like if you haven't played Wukong, you have to play Wukong. It's so good. And you know what's crazy, though, is I believe it was a Reddit post I had read last night. And people were complaining that Wukong wasn't good. People were complaining that the game is mid, that who cares, blah, blah, blah. Really? It's that bad to you? Really? I mean, I know it's subjective in how you appreciate things. But all I can see with Wukong is honesty, passion, dedication to a vision that they just honed in on tenfold. It's above average in terms of gaming. From what I have played and what I've experienced, it's so goddamn good. You know, I think down the line, I will probably drop every rating on my list. So, like, Red Dead to me can go down to, like, a 9.5. Certain games can go down to 9. Blah, 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 blah. I probably will drop the ratings either by 0.5 or 0.25 across the board. But, you know, if we do find better games, if we do find games that are, like, really crazy and, you know, things have to be reshifted, I don't mind doing that. I think that's fair. But for me, you know, my all-time favorite game is Red Dead. My all-time favorite game is Red Dead. Wukong's a 9.5. Still one of the highlights of gaming, I think, for this stream. It's a standout. It is a fucking standout. It's excellent. So I don't think that has to change. Yeah, right there, Wukong, 9.5. There you go. Let's actually put a scroll on that. Perfect. 9.5, Wukong! Black Myth. So there it is. And with that, folks, we have successfully defeated the 2100 tier, and we are now on 21.5. Wukong is completely done. I would say the YouTube videos served it well. I would say I understand it infinitely more now, and I'm pretty satisfied with what we did and what we've learned. So yeah. So the next game is going to be Squirrel with a Gun. Squirrel with a Gun, and then Baldur's Gate 3. 8 versus 8 plus. We'll see. I think overall, honestly, I think where I've posted most of these games, they are in the ballpark of what that rating is. So if down the line I'm like, you know what, maybe The Last of Us wasn't a 9.5, maybe Death Stranding wasn't a 9.5, it will still be in the orbit of that rating. So again, like I said, I'll probably drop it down to like 9, 9.25, so on and so forth, once we keep playing more games. But I think most of my ratings, subjectively, for where I want to be, is excellent. BG3 is going to take a whole support-a-thon. We'll see. Disco Elysium is tomorrow. If we can get Squirrel with a Gun done. So let's do Discord sharing for like 20 minutes, 10 minutes. And then we have to do Squirrel with a Gun, but I want to see how long that game is first. YouTube. That is it for me for now. I will see you all later tonight, maybe, for Squirrel with a Gun. If we can't get to it, we'll do it tomorrow, depending on how long it is. So yeah, I will see you guys later, YouTube. Be well. And Wukong is a 9.5. Great game. Great game, great experience, very fun, very thematic, very memorable, and clearly a work of art, clearly a work of passion and dedication. So 9.5, man, that's where I'm at. Lowest would be 9. But yeah, so YouTube be well, and I will see you guys later tonight or tomorrow. Peace, peace. All right, YouTube is finished.